nation, destroys our generation. I don't mind, I don't mind, I don't mind, I don't mind. Looking for inspiration in my life. Looking for inspiration all the time. Looking for, looking for, looking for, looking for. Hey!
And I still got that timer kind of screwed up on that thing there, but I'd welcome everybody to another evening of Spline Design Studios Saturday. Just getting some things set up here once again as far as to continue with our, I consider this the second episode of our scratch build track with Charlotte Roval. James in the chat there. How we doing there this evening, James? Glad to have you. Just making sure I got, yeah, really got to work on that, the timer, I guess, as far as for the intro screen. I never can seem to get that to set up right. Fantastic. Well, that's good to hear. Alright, so we have done a little bit of talking, I guess, off stream there. Razor James and I, as far as like just getting this all set up as far as how to proceed with the overall build, I guess, of this track. That being the Charlotte Roval, as I've mentioned. Okay, so this should be about where I need to be here, so let's just bring this up. I'm going to slide this over here, and this off there. So there we go. So, one of the things that I had noticed and I didn't necessarily go over as far as last week was as far as when I saved this, and we finally were able to not get it to crash, and it did have to do with setting where the lead segment was. So the fact that I had spanked out where the lead segment was, where we started off as far as laying the track out, and I didn't reassign as far as where that lead segment was. Well, when it asks you to recenter, you know, do you want it to apply that as far as the recenter of the track? You always want to say yes. Okay, part of that, in doing so, what it does is it does try to center the track the best it can based on the splines that are laid out there. And what basically ends up happening is it'll misalign as far as your background image just slightly. The overall shape of the track, as far as the way we have set it out there so far, is still there. It's just that you have to adjust. You would necessarily need to adjust your background image appropriately, and that's what I'm going to go over there. So if you're noticing, as far as where the spline, as far as how that's off, that's because of the recentering. As far as what Sandbox applies, as far as the recentering of the track after resetting that lead segment as we did from last week. So all it basically should boil down to, and I kind of played around with this a little bit off stream, prior to coming on the stream, and what you have the option of doing here at this point is to adjust either the X or the Y. I think in this case all we have to do is adjust the Y. We just want to slide this background image so that it lines right back up with it. We don't need to resize it or anything, and by doing so we definitely don't want to do that, because if you do that, any work that you've got there is for nothing. So the fact that we do have this option, and I'm gonna have to play with this a little bit, and I had played around with this a little bit, I guess, off stream, as I mentioned, but I should only need to move this down. You can see it just moved. It's moving that background image down, and that's just applying the offset for the Y here. So far I've got 5 meters, and this doesn't change, like I said, the integrity of the track as far as like everything's scaled so properly and all that. So don't be concerned, I guess, with that. So I'm going to go double that just to see. 10 meters down. Did I adjust that right? Let me see. I didn't seem to move. Let me put this back to 0 really quick. Didn't notice it move or not. Okay, there we go. Just wanted to make sure. So it might be little subtle moves, but okay, let's try 20 just to give me an idea. Alright, that's a little bit closer. Yeah, so this little adjustment that I'm applying here, it does, like I said, it does not affect the integrity of the track or the image itself. The image itself is still the same size that we set it to, you know, prior to initially laying that out last week. Nothing has changed in that, so the dynamic of the track is still there. So all we're doing is just shifting it, and in this case on the Y, downwards is all we're doing. So let's try 22. Alright, so we're trying to get, what I'm basically looking at is this back stretch here. I want to get this outer X section, I guess, to line up somewhat with this, as well as paying attention to the pit road here as well. So that's what I'm looking at. So, and keeping in mind, I can't remember. I don't remember if I did stretch those out or not. I don't think I did, from what I remember, because I remember we took this route as far as going down the pit road instead of going, you know, the outside road, because we found that was easier to do it this way, because this is basically turn 1, and then we can design the LPs, I guess, to go through this area, and that's later on. So that's just a short little recap, I guess, as far as what we've done so far. Alright, so let's adjust this a little more. I'm going to go to 25. That's still not quite enough. It might be quite a bit of an adjustment here, but that's okay. Let me go to 30. Alright, that is a little bit closer. I think I might take it a smidge down. I'm just paying attention to the center line here. So this is going down pit road like we had it. Our X section is well enough, we can adjust this inward so we can have use of the pit road. That was another reason why we did it this way. Yeah, that should be pretty good there. So what it's ending up to be, looks like, is I had to adjust the Y, which is basically shifting the background image down about 30 meters. This is going to be different depending on what type of result you get after you save your first initial track PTF, after you get it all closed in as far as the spline, set your lead segment, all that stuff. It's going to be different. It's not always going to be the same. Every track is going to behave differently as far as how it sandbox recenters everything. So just to keep that in mind. Alright, so I think we're where we need to be on that. So, and if I wanted to, I don't think I'll necessarily do that. I could take this image, I could take a snippet of that and actually reapply that to the background image, so I know that for future reference. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and jot that down, but I do have a tutorial, I guess, on how to use the snipping tool, the window snipping tool. And if you don't know how to use that, I have it already set up here. I can kind of go over it really quick. I have it in my start menu here. It's basically just, you can click on the snipping tool, and what it does is it kind of fades it out a little bit. Hopefully that's coming across the stream okay. And just snip it like this. Yeah, that might have paused it a little bit, so I apologize, I guess, if it did interrupt, I guess, the integrity of the stream. But basically all I did is just took a snippet of that background image, and I can potentially apply that to my background image later on. So I'm going to go ahead and save this just for future reference. So I'm going to go ahead and put this to the desktop and just save it as a PNG, as a capture. You can name it whatever you want, doesn't matter. Just going to leave it at that for now. Okay, so now I have that for future reference as far as what I had to adjust the background image to. And there should not be any further adjustment to this background image from this point. it was just getting that, like I said, that initial layout of the track as far as the closed spline, setting the lead semi-ignition. We'll probably have to move it, which is no big deal. We'll probably have to do some more splits, which is what you want to do at this stage as far as before you get all your W and F sections applied. This is the best time to do any splits if you're going to, so I'm going to do OK on that. Okay, so where are we at now? So what I want to do is unlock all geometry and do the right click, unlock all geometry, so we have access to everything. Yeah, I did get my show off, I guess, to work too, as far as like showing the keystrokes. You can see that in the bottom left of the stream. I didn't have that on last week. Forgot all about it, to be perfectly honest. So try to get that back up in there so you can kind of get an idea of what kind of keys that I'm using while using the sandbox. So, to move around is the C key, and then just pointing the mouse, using the mouse pointer, I guess, to get moved around. I do have a tutorial on that too. You can, in fact, that's something, new commands that I've got in the chat. You can use, should be in there as a timer, but there's a exclamation point how1 or an exclamation point how2. Those two commands you can type in the chat if you so choose to check out some short clips, I guess, as far as how to use sandbox and stuff like that, how to set the sandbox up so that you can create a track and so on and so forth. So feel free, to check those out. Alright, now that I got all the geometry unlocked, I think what I'm going to do at this point, this looks pretty good. This is something that we really tried to get defined well enough or whatever, as far as the center line going through this turn 1. And like I said, we had decided to go this route, so we had full functionality of the pit road and can still design the LPs, I guess, to go through the outer oval as necessary to get to this point. But we definitely do want to have a functioning pit road. So that was why we went this route instead of going this way and not necessarily having the ability to stretch these innermost X sections inwards so that we could use that pit road. So hopefully that's kind of makes sense. You can, just to kind of summarize, I guess, a little bit of what we went over last stream is all. I don't go too much into it. So I'm going to select this here. We'll probably have to do some splitting. That was the other thing. I think that's where we left off. I want to take into consideration as far as where the openings in the walls are as one thing, and also to set our lead segment over in this region. So I can zoom in here a little bit just so you can get a better idea. So our start finish line's here, so we definitely do want to put a split in this area. So I'll do that one first. I want to get this segment selected, and I think I'll drag, yeah, let's go ahead and drag this out past the grandstand like so. We're not going to need to lay out any additional segments other than the split, so we'll just stretch this out a little bit. Now I want to get, now you can do this kind of one of two ways, but since our spline is already closed up and we're not necessarily prepending or appending against our segments, into this build, be it the fact, I guess, that this is closed, we don't have the ability to be able to move this around. So where you apply, I guess, where the split goes, and I'll show you this in a second. If I do a right click within this segment here, and I'm going to do a split segment, you'll get this line, and it is a little bit on a diagonal, but that should be fine. So what I want to do is put this slightly forward, not too much, but slightly forward of where the actual start finish line is. So like start finish line is like right there. So I'll split it right there. Now what I have the potential to do now is to set this segment as the lead segment, because that's after the start finish line. So this will be segment 0 now, or I'm sorry, segment in this case 52. This would be segment 0, and this is segment 52. So there's 52 segments in this whole layout overall, which isn't too bad. Yeah, so leading right up to, let me double check this here. I think let's go double check something here. Something seems a little bit wonky here now that I think of it, because this should have been 52 on this side. So is this going backwards? I hope not. Let me check here. Okay, I know what it is. So because I didn't set the lead segment now, so it moved it somewhere. Alright, gotcha. See, this is where the lead segment comes into play. This is what I messed up, yeah, as far as saving it last week. So this is something good to go over. I have not set the lead segment at this point, so if I want to set the lead segment at this point, which I'll probably go ahead and just do all my splits, and then I'll do that, now that I think of it. But see, I have not set my lead segment, so the lead segment's kind of like in limbo, if you will. So these segments, the way it should go, as far as the track going in this direction, you know, as far as counterclockwise, this one right here should be your highest segment on this side of, you know, if I did have this set up as a lead segment properly. When I go to the other side of where I just split this here, which would be the lead segment, this would be 0, and it should go all the way around until you get to the last one. And it's not doing that right now, and that's only because I haven't defined a lead segment yet. It's kind of put it in limbo. So just keeping that, you know, in the back of your mind as far as how that goes, I'm going to do all my additional splits as far as to accommodate, take into consideration these openings in the pit wall, and then go from there. So let's do that. So I want to go in the segment, and I want to right click, split segment, and I'm going to put opening there. Okay, go back into this segment, right click. There's going to be several splits in here. We're going to get these openings. Okay, that shouldn't be too terrible. Now I go back into this one, right click, split segment. And I'm just kind of following these lines right here as far as where those openings are. Back in that segment, do split segment. And, you know, like I said, this is definitely where the point that you want to do this type of thing before you get your W sections and your F sections and what have you. Anything, your textures even for that matter. When it's in this spline format, this is the best time to apply any splits if you need to. So I'll go back into this segment. You can see the 2 yellow bounding lines. Okay, so we're going to split this segment. Got this one right here. There's our segment here, the 2 yellow bounding lines. Going to right click into that, split that. Alright, so now we got that segment there. So this will allow us to create an opening here, as well as here, and here in the pit wall. And that's what we want. Shoot, you know what? Something else I forgot to do again. That's another thing. Let me just set that really quick before I forget. How far into this are we so far? Oh my goodness. We're already 21 minutes into this thing. Crazy. I know I talk too much. So, yeah, I'm going to start this up here. There we go. I forgot about the uptime. So it's going to be about 20 minutes off. 20 minutes shy. Better late than never, I suppose, though. I like to put those in as kind of a little timestamp references, I guess, as far as the archives go. You know, it kind of helps me, so I kind of hope that it helps others, I guess, as far as finding a particular area of the stream. You know, as far as just to see that actually in the archive, if you will. You can see if you're looking at a particular timestamp as compared to using the one that it's actually on, in most cases, YouTube. So, alright, that should be going good. Now, I'm so used to using, as far as playing other games and stuff like that, as far as using like the ASDW and all that So I usually have my keys on that. Primarily only need to use C, X, and Z are the three of the primary keys that you use in Sandbox as far as just to navigate around in the main window, as far as to zoom in and out and so on. So, alright, so I think I got all my splits. Just want to make sure. Yeah, we don't have any other ones there. That should be all good there. Okay. Okay, actually our lead segment is still right here. Now that scan over in that direction, excuse me. Yeah, so our lead segment's actually right here. So if I look at it from this point, yeah, our lead segment is still right here. But as far as the segment numbers, they're all kind of jacked up, because this one says it's 51, then it goes to 0. This one's 57 now, so yeah, we're gonna have to get that all realigned. So, all right, once I think that should be good. I just want to take another gander. I think I got this out as far as I want to take it. Let me see if I can stretch this out a little more. That should work. Now, for this one here, I should be able to create like an open on left and right, as I was showing last week, as far as not having like an invisible collidable barrier. You know, that's something that's invisible. You'll be able to, either the player car or the AI for that matter should be able to cross this. I mean, primarily the AI won't do that anyway, because they'll just follow the LP. But as far as for a player car, for sure, like if you overshoot this turn one, say for example, and you end up going into this region, you won't hit like an invisible wall. You should be able to set that up so that it doesn't do that. All right, so I'm going to create this segment here, which is just past the start finish line on this here. I'm going to make this my new lead segment. So I'll right click, make a lead segment. Now it should be, this is segment 55, and then this one should be 0, which it's not. So I might have to save it again to make sure it, okay, 55, 57, just checking these. This is segment 0, yeah, so I'm going to have to resave that, so it's going to ask to recenter it probably. Yep, so we'll have to go ahead and do that. So say this is a separate PTF, of course. With all those adjustments made, I've moved my lead segment over to here. We're going to go ahead and save that as a new PTF. So in this case, we're up to track 6. Barfy2, welcome to the stream. Can you explain the invisible wall thing again? I missed the start of it. Oh, yeah, let me save this real quick and I'll go over that again real quick. Alright, so track 7. Alright, so I think that saved it. Let me double check that. Guess I didn't get to my... Give me just 1 second there, Barfy. I'll get right to that question. Yep, so I have my new PTF. Now, what I'm going to do is close this, because it's still got the segment numbers all jacked up. So let me do new. And actually, I'm going to close right out of this bugger. Yeah, we got my little capture save here. Let's move that down here for now. We'll get to that later. Now, what I'm going to do is reopen Sandbox and open that PTF up again. It should align all those segments properly. Alright, so let's go into here. Give that a second to load. Okay, there we go. Yep, so it didn't realign anything, so I didn't get that dialogue either. That's something I paid attention to. Now what should happen, I want to double check this really quick. Zoom in on this really quick, make sure. So we got, this one is segment 58, and if I go on the other side, that's segment 0, and that's what you want. So like, being the fact that this track is going counterclockwise, your lead segment should be 0. Okay, so this has 58 segments now, and I've got all the splits as far as on pit road and such. I think it had 52 or whatever it was. So now I have 58, so it goes from 58 to 0 on the other side, which is your lead segment. That's now your lead segment. So that's correct. We're good so far. Now, getting back to, Barfi, your question, I guess, about... oh, Rufio. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, you got several handles there, I guess. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Appreciate you coming on the stream. But yeah, as far as the invisible wall thing, again, that's basically what happens. Is it happens in a lot of road courses. So like this type of thing, it'll be the same type of scenario. So like if you go into, because you've got this trajectory as far as this is your turn 1 going into the infield here, if you did not apply on these segments here, this one in particular, if you did not apply, and I'm going to right click on this, and you have this open on left and right, okay, now how this works, I'm going to explain this again. What this means is when you apply this, and you can do these, you can toggle these on or off. So right now I have it open on left. What it means by open on left, as far as this segment is concerned, that means on this side of the segment, as far as the center line is concerned, that'll be open. So there will be no, you'll be able to freely navigate, I guess, past that segment to include the outer X section. Okay, that's what that means. So like, let me put it on this straight here. So like this would be considered on this side of the center line would be open on left. Open on right would be open on this side of the center line. And what that means is if you did not put that there, you would be able, if you did not put that there, you wouldn't be able to cross over this outermost X section. It'd be an invisible wall. Unless you put something visual there to say that that is the boundary. So when you apply it as, and that's probably what I'll do for this section here in particular, I'll take it off the left. We don't want that one. We want it on the right. This is the right side. You know, as far as considering the center line, this is your right side of the track segment. As far as going by your little boundary line, even the fact that it is it's a curve. This would be considered your left, and this is your right. Okay, so again, so like this is your left, open on left, or open on right if you were to apply it. So hopefully that explains that, I guess, a little bit. So if I was not to put an open on right in this segment, if you were to overshoot this and didn't have that applied there, there would be an invisible barrier right here. So in theory, this would help open up the infield. Yes, exactly. And that's one of the other reasons, you know, like, so as far as, yeah, if I wanted to go ahead and you want to have infield access, you know, as far as, you know, considering I did all these splits here for the pit wall, yes, all these segments I'd have to open on left, and minimally. And I probably will do that eventually. So all these would have to be open on left so that you would be able to cross that barrier. Now, these X sections here obviously will get stretched more into the middle a little bit. I can't go too far based on, you know, I don't want to disturb, I guess, the integrity, I guess, of this infield area that we're working. But as far as to get access to, like, say, the victory lane and stuff like that, I would have to move all that in. We'll probably get to that during the stream here, but for now, I'm just probably leave it as such. So I just tried this today, and my game started crashing after opening on left. See, now it's going to depend on one of the other things, and that's something that we paid really particular attention with this build, is if you have your X sections are too close together, this could be a potential problem. As far as, like, you don't want your X sections touching too much. You want to have, see, like this here is probably, it's pushing it. Let me see if I can zoom in here. See the distance of these X sections right here, as far as the two different directions in this case. This is kind of pushing it. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem or not. And that's going to require some testing, of course. But if I was to, say, for example, apply open on left, well, in this case, it'd be open on right, and this one, it probably would crash. That's what I would expect. Whether that will do that or not, like I said, will require some testing once we can get it into the sim itself. So that could be what you might be dealing with if that's what you've tried. So like this one's going in this direction, the arrow's going this way, this is coming back out onto the regular oval. But like in this one, you're kind of looking at this one upside down. So because it's going in this direction, this would be considered your left, and this would be considered your right. So if I was to apply an open on right in this segment, more than likely, and that's what I would expect, this is through experience, because these X sections are pretty close together, it might crash. It might crash the game because there's not enough distance in between these X sections, I guess, for the game, I guess, to render. Because you also have to consider the way the gaming engine, as far as the NASCAR Racing 2003 simulation game engine, as far as the graphics and whatever, there needs to be room for the track to breathe. And by that I mean what you apply and what you see in sandbox isn't exactly what you'll see in the game. So it'll tend to flex, and I use that term loosely as far as a quote unquote breathe. It needs room to render itself. So when you get X sections, be it sometimes even F or W sections as well, any of these types of splines that you put down for either your walls, your F sections, or your X sections, if you don't give it enough room, it does tend to crash things. So it usually doesn't happen too often, I guess, is when you cross F sections with X sections, because we see that a lot. You can open plenty of few tracks or whatever, and you see that a lot. But definitely, I guess, with this type of scenario here, if you're going to do an open on left or right with it being that close, I know I sound like a broken record, I guess, at this point, but just want to make that abundantly clear. So that could be a potential problem, I guess, as far as why you're experiencing that anyway. Something I'm noticing here, this is a little bit off. I don't know what happened there. Holy smokes. Yeah, this area in here got a little jacked up there, so it's pretty good here. I don't know how that got so jacked up over here, though. Interesting, I just noticed that. It might be okay. I know through here it's fine. I just noticed just right in here. So I see the center line's like way on the curving. That's not where I had it last time, so that might have been part of just it recentering. That's about the only problem area that I really see. Even as far as yeah, see, it did center that center. Yeah, see, that's another reason. And I didn't go over this last week. As far as like, I put the center line a lot closer to the wall, coming like this. So when it recentered, as far as when I do the initial save, as far as once I get it all closed up, if you will, it's going to tend to want to shift that center line a tad, and it has done that because I had this a lot closer to that outside wall. So I did have the center line on the wall. Exactly. So what necessarily probably happened is when it got recentered, and it's the same thing that I see here too, Sandbox tries to center it up between the two X sections as best as possible. So like if you really look at this as far as the way the boundaries are in those X sections, it's tried to center that center line as best as possible upon initial save. And I think that's why it's doing that. In fact, I'm not going to say that that's probably why. That it is why. So, the pit. No, remember I followed that outside edge. Remember on the pit road, we decided to go so that way I had enough trajectory, I guess, to make this corner. So we followed this. So this is right. This much is right. This I do remember. I tried to follow as closely to this outside edge as possible, so it was out far enough so I could make this radius right here. That much I do remember, because that was something that was critical as far as to get that first turn in there and still have the option to have a functional pit road. So the only thing that I notice, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying last week about don't mess around with your X sections as far as moving them out before your initial PTF save, as far as once you close your spline, as far as appending and prepending your segments. Because what'll happen is this, if I would have moved this out, say for example, out and then tried to save it, even with my lead segment over here, it would have moved this center line out to try and, because Sandbox will try to center this center line, I guess, between the two X sections as best as possible, and that's basically what it did here. So it's sent. If you look at this pretty closely, let me see if I can move this over a little bit. If you look at this pretty closely, as far as where the two X sections are, it's tried to center that center line as best as possible. And keeping in mind, I've already moved this, but this was in further prior to the initial save, and that's what it's done here. Let's move that center line as far as where that. So that's not. I don't think it's gonna be a problem. It's just something that you can consider, I guess, as far as when you do your initial PTF save, as far as closing that spline up is all. So, yes, exactly, James. So as far as lining up with something that's identifiable, and I know, James, you've even shown this in some of your streams too, as far as using something identifiable like the pit road in this case. The fact that I ran the trajectory of the center line along this outer edge of the pit road, I know that, as far as lining up my image again, as I had to coming back into this, that PTF after the save and it recentered and so on, I know that if I line this up just like I've got it here, I know that's correct. That's something identifiable, as James is mentioning. So far I think we're still pretty good. Our segments are lining up after that save, and I've opened that back up. We've got 58 segments, and it does go back to 0 once I go past where the lead segment is, and goes all the way around in a counterclockwise rotation here. So far I think we're good as far as that goes. So it's going to be interesting to see now that I've got that. I think I applied that. I'll double check that again. So in this segment here, I had to apply open on right, which it is. That should allow for, like if you were to overshoot this, that you can cross over that and going into this, going in this way and not have an invisible barrier. So, and I may necessarily even go ahead and just apply open on right on all these, just to make sure. One of the things that I am considering, I mentioned this last week as well, as far as how to deal with this, because there'll be a hole right in here, as far as like a black hole in between these two segments, as far as how I take care of that, as far as doing like a 3D modeled wall or something like that. I don't think with as close as these are, they'll be able to put a W section in there without it being an issue. That will need some testing for sure, so to determine whether or not that's possible. So it's part of the limitations, I guess, that exist with the sim as far as designing tracks of this nature. So, or any track really, but particularly one of these. So I've got that open on right. I think what I do, I think I talked myself into it. I'm going to open all these on the right just to satisfy the option there. I might even do it on left as well, because it is kind of open here as well. So like if you come around this, kind of wander up into that, I want to try not to play around too much with moving these X sections inward. I can probably model something as far as an infield to take care of this dead space. But what I mean by dead space is, this is the only area that you're going to race on in the infield. So everything over in this area is going to be what I consider to be dead space. You're not going to be racing on it or anything. And there's walls and such, I guess, that surround, this outer regions anyway. There are some open areas, but primarily, I guess it's pretty closed in. So we need to get more picture references, I guess, as far as to determine, I guess, exactly what type of barriers that they had in there besides the curbing and such like that too. So that'll all come, I guess, as this build goes along. So I think what I will do is kind of keep it this way and just apply the open on left for this area and open on right as it gets into here. I might have to do both, I guess, on these now that I think of it too, just to ensure that there isn't going to be, I thought I unlocked all geometry. Let me try that again. Unlock all geometry so I can get at the X sections. There we go. So yeah, I'll just move that out. Yeah. So I think this one here I'll definitely have to adjust outwards like so. We'll have to see how that center line is going to pose a problem. It shouldn't though. It's still following that because the AI, and we went over this last week as well, can deviate from that center line. That center line is just kind of like a feeler, if you will. It's kind of like a guide. It's not, they don't follow that 100%. It does use reference to that, I guess, as far as setting up the I and I for the track, that's for sure. But just going to adjust some of these out just a tad. Considering putting in room, you know, as far as put F sections in here for curbing and stuff like that. Whether or not to, this is something else I take into consideration as far as applying the necessary X sections to, you know, to create elevation, I guess, on those curbs, because those curbs do have some height to them. That's something I could take into consideration too. And really breaking my mold, to be honest, as far as I've always preached about how I don't care to do road courses, but the fact that this one's kind of a hybrid, you know, the fact that NASCAR's taking the approach of doing both an oval as well as it's kind of struck my interest as far as to the fact that I've watched highlights of what took place, I guess, during that race. It was kind of a disaster, I felt, but some necessarily considered it to be a smart move, I guess, on NASCAR, I guess, to, you know, apply something different. But I don't know. I guess it is what it is now, and I'm sure they'll probably keep it. So keep that event like it is. I'm just stretching these out a little. I'm considering what type of potential W or F sections I'll have to put in here, because there's a wall here. And probably fair thing, I guess, to mention in this one too. This is not the official layout, I guess, as far as the oval. As far as I don't have, like, it doesn't have the bus stop in the backstretch clearly defined as far as that little island that they had and so on. There's even to include, there's walls where they go in and out of the course. As far as here and over here, there's a wall here. They obviously didn't have that there, I guess, during the actual rover race. So, yeah, you definitely won't hear NASCAR say it was a disaster, though. Yeah, there were some people that actually did like it. I thought it was a disaster. I thought it was. I know James and I, we've kind of, you know, talked somewhat offline as far as what are, you know, our thoughts about it. But oh, something else too. I'm gonna go back over this. Just when you split. Yes, and I did go over this last week too. When you split segments, okay, as I did, I guess, as far as on here. This is part of a cleanup here. What it does, as far as it changes the interpolation of the X sections from mode absolute to, I think it's forward or right. Yeah, forward or back. I always get in the habit of changing those back to mode absolute because we want to keep this relatively flat for now. And that's going to happen every time you split. So where you split, anytime you split, it's going to change that. So you want to check it on both the inside and the outside. See that as it here, as I split here. So I'm going to change this back to mode absolute. You can just right click on the little dot. Whoops. right click on the dot and change it back to mode absolute, and it'll turn into a white square. That's how you'll know. Just in order to maintain that, I guess, at ground zero as far as a zero plane. That's what we want to do, I guess, for now. Alright, so checking this one. That one looks good. That one's good. Yep, so as long as those are all white squares. Okay, so here should be, yep, these both. Switch that to mode absolute. Mode absolute. Should be the same over on this side. Don't want to forget to do both. And it just keeps it, consistent as far as once you get into actually applying banking, which will come not too far away, hopefully. Looking at some other options as far as to get a 3D model of the track based on LiDAR data, hopefully, this is a hope anyway, and be able to apply that as a mold, I guess, to apply the banking properly for this track. So, okay, so we don't have any more splits, so all these are still at mode absolute. You should be good there. And it may seem that I'm jumping around a little bit, but this is part of the process as far as laying out the track, as far as like just considering what you would potentially have to apply. So like in this region here, this region here too, I'll just move these X sections out because I want to be able to put probably an F or W section there. I got LiDAR from 2003 loaded up. Oddly enough, it has this roval layout without the parts NASCAR did. Yeah. Yeah, I think to be honest, I think the infield layout has been here for quite some time. Because they, even though NASCAR wasn't using it, I think that this layout, because we went over that last week as far as how many different layouts they went through before they finally settled on the one that they actually went with. So right, yep, that's probably true, because we had showed, because the way I got this laid out, like they didn't use this or this area, which I guess is the new parts. So I'm not sure which ones are newer or older, but yeah, see, they don't use any of this as far as NASCAR. They only use this outer part. Yeah, so they don't use this little loop right in here. And I think they initially had tried it, and that was one of the layouts or the configurations they were considering, but they didn't go with it, which was probably smart. But okay, so I'm gonna move this one out, and like I said, basically I'm to the point now where I can consider, as far as move these X sections now that it's all closed in. Make my adjustments appropriately. This I don't have to worry about too much because I can do the open on left if necessary. I'm just trying to take care of like any of these areas that I would potentially want to put an F or W section, because I don't want, be it that this is the outermost X section, I don't want my W or F sections for my walls or my texture sections, I guess, to be stepped on, if you will. So that's just thinking out loud here. How in the world? Oh, I guess I'm looking at that wrong. This is the apron. Holy crap, this really shifted here. Just saw that. That shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be. I just noticed that center line's like right in that freaking outside wall. I mean, I had it close, but not that close. Holy smokes, and it comes back out. We'll have to test that and see how it actually behaves. But I think it should be okay. Yeah, I'm just noticing that now. So you can see the center line's like right here. It's like right on top of that wall, and that's not, but that's all part of it recentering itself when I saved it last week. That shouldn't be a problem. Hopefully. And I'm glad, I guess I did it somewhat the way I did. this actually looks pretty good here as far as that center line trajectory. Yep, so just kind of going over, I guess, as far as all that it did do as far as when I saved what I had thought of too as far as like all this. I'm going to see how far I can take this. I want to be able to get all this detail as far as that wall and such in there. So I want to see what having this radius here, what that's, uh-oh. Don't be doing that. It started swirling on me. I looked, you definitely had the center line on the dash line up here. The dash line? I thought it was more to that outer edge. That's where we wanted it though anyway, wasn't it? So I remember that was, you know, I just recall, I guess, as far as trying to stay as close to this outer edge as possible because I wanted enough room, I guess, to make this corner. That's what I remember, at least anyway. And I'm not saying the line, but I thought, and I could have, you know, as far as that center line might have been on the dash line, and if it did, that's not that bad of a shift on it. It's still going through here, you know, rather decently. On this save or the save prior, because I can open that save actually. I can save this one as a new PTF and then check it. That was prior to, yeah, in fact, let me do that. Click off of this. I'm going to save this as a new PTF. We can find out here pretty quickly. Yeah, let me do that. So I'll do this as 8. Yeah, let's do that. Alright, and just double check and make sure it's there, which it is. Alright, so what I'll do, and it might be even the one previous to this, so I'm going to do a new. And then do open 6. Okay, that one's completely off. That was before I shifted it. So let me get, I got an idea. Hold on. Hold on a minute. So I'm going to go back to my PTFs, which I put in a separate folder. I'm going to open up 5. That would have been prior to saving it as 6. So I'll copy this one back in. Don't have any textures or anything applied to this, so it's not a big deal as far as bringing that. What did I do? Oh, whoopsie. Alright, hold on. Thought I had, gosh, let me go back to, oh, I see what it did. Okay, copied the wrong one. I always like to include the SBX as well, just for, alright, so let's do that. There, so this one was prior to me saving it as 6, which it would have recentered. So let's see what that does. Get down to the bottom of this. Let's see how this loads. Okay, so nope, that's not the one. Oh, you know what? I saved that twice. I do remember that now. So let me put in 4. We'll get it right. I did save that twice. I remember that was something you suggested there, James. I did it twice. Just to kind of humor that. So let's do this. Copy. I don't know why I keep doing that, but okay. Let's put this one in here. This one should be, yeah, I do remember I saved it twice as far as when it recentered, just to ensure. Alright, so I'm going to do a new. Open, we'll open up 4. Oh, snap. Interesting. Okay, so this is when we took this approach to it, as far as trying to go this way. And what we weren't able to accomplish was to get this to, that's why we went the route that we did. So I guess I can't really clarify, but this gives you an idea as far as our process, as far as what we tried to do this way, which is not very beneficial to do it this way, because you don't have the option to move. And AI would definitely have a problem with this way, because it can't cross over segments that I'm trying to remember. Yeah, as far as the X section being too close. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it's something to. Where was that messed up here? One of these was messed up. This one right here. It wouldn't be able to cross over. I think this was the one, if I remember right. But anyway, this is bad. This is no good because it doesn't give us the option to be able to use pit road, because that's I don't have any way to move this out further, like in this section here particularly. So this one here, are you serious? There's absolutely everything wrong with this one. I hope you're not serious. This save you had dash line. Okay, that was the previous one. Yeah, I hope you weren't serious on this one here. This one's terrible. This should be terrible because of the way. I'm trying to remember now because it came down to, as far as just being able to clean up, I guess, this X section. Let me unlock again. Yeah, if you ever run into the issue where you can't select your X sections and all that, you have to make sure you click outside of your track spline, as far as the geometry of the track, and just do the unlock geometry. And that'll give you the option to move that out. I'm just going back over this now, James, because I don't remember. Because I think, if memory serves me right, I thought it had a lot to do with the inability to move this X section out farther. That's what I think it primarily was, because it wasn't going to allow you to get the full functionality of the pit road. That's what I remember anyway, because of the way one of these sections here was funky. Let me see here. Go back through it again. See how tight this is right here? I don't think that's going to allow the functionality of pit road, because it's like right there. I mean, that's where the wall would have to go. So as far as being able to put a decent wall there, wouldn't be, stuff like that. Let me zoom in on this. Oop, just dropped a couple frames there, just making sure should be still good. Yeah, let me zoom in here a little further. See, like this is, I can't move this any further, for example. I can't move any of this any further than that, and I think that was primarily what we're considering. Right down as the background image matched the save image. Well, let me see. It shouldn't. That should be because the PTF should hold on to that. No, so that doesn't have that adjustment to Y. So this is the original settings. So that saves in the PTF as far as the background image position. So that's where that would have been. So I don't know. I'm just thinking now, because I think that was primarily what it was. I thought was I can't move this. Well, that's not even attached. What the hell? Second here. Oh yeah, it is. I can't move this any further than that. So yeah, and I think it might have been, from what I remember, I thought one of these, it wasn't allowing the X section to go in far enough. That's what I remember. But I thought it was crossing over the pit road, I guess, a little bit more. I don't remember. I honestly don't. I just remember that being an issue, and I'd have to look at the one from last week, but it was causing a problem as far as the X section wasn't able to move out past the pit road. So I thought that's what it was, at least anyway. I think, to be honest, I think it would work either way. you know, with the way this one is in comparison. The only thing that I don't care for, to be perfectly honest, is not being able to move this X section like it is. This bugs me. I don't like that. I want to be able to move that X section in more if I want to. Don't have that type of radius. Need to move the X section away from the yellow corner. What yellow corner? That's in as far as it'll go. I don't know if that's what you mean. This is as far as I can move this one, for example. I can't move it any further. This one I can move, but I can't move this one. I'm just trying to see what we got here. See, it's this one in here in particular. I can't move it any further. See, if I move this back out here, there's a little short segment here. Yeah, see, I can't move that any further. That's as far as I can go with it. Yeah, and that was the other thing I think we were talking about last time. You don't, the fact that, I can get that segment selected again. This one here is at its extent. So like if I move this out here, see the fact that it's, that would probably cause a problem. Because I'm trying to push this in as far as it'll go. And the fact that I'm squeezing that so hard there, that would probably cause an issue anyway. I think that was part of the other issue. But also, from what I do recall, this X section, from what I remember at least anyway, wasn't able, it was still crossing over on the pit road, which wouldn't allow for the pit road to be used appropriately because that the AI would not be able to cross over that. That was the issue that we were running into. Yeah, but then I wouldn't be able to put a W section there. It'd be too close, because I'd have to move it out like so. It would just look like poop, as far as I'm concerned. I think the other one's a lot cleaner, to be honest, because the fact that I can't change this to a Euclidean, because that's like the set X section, so I can't even do that. It just looks like poop, I feel. I mean, it would probably work. I'm not going to argue that point, but I think it just looks stupid as far as, you know, having this little loop in here. I'd have to keep it like this in order to, I mean, I could still probably put a wall there, yeah, for sure, but I'm not leaving that. This is as much room as I got right now. I mean, in order to make it, I really don't want to use this one, I'll be perfectly honest. I don't think it's a good candidate, because to me, I would have to move this out like something like this, and then I could probably squeeze a wall in there, but I just don't like how that is, to be honest. That just looks like poop. I'd like to keep the X sections nice and clean, like the other one is, to be honest. And that might be just being anal, possibly, but I think it probably would work. I mean, I don't really understand as far as why. I just remember from last week we were having issues with this X section still crossing over on the pit road. That's what I remember. And that's why we went the route that we did as far as what we have. Yeah, I know you will never see it, but it looks like poop. You know, as far as like if you were to open this up here, just to having like that, it just, I think it looks not very nice. Let's put it that way. I know you won't see it, you know, necessarily in the game itself. I think it's just a matter of preference, maybe. But I don't know. I mean, if I go with this one, if I recenter that using this one moving forward, I could probably see what happens, I guess, if I save it. I'll have to do it as like a 4B, so that I don't step on either 5 or 6 as far as the track PTF succession goes. And then to see what it does. I could try that. I really don't like it, I'll be perfectly honest. I think this looks like crap, but maybe just me. yeah, let me save this one as, I'll just do it as a 4B. And this sometimes happens too. I just don't want to step on any other PTFs that I have, so I want to have something to refer back to. Yeah, I'm going to save it and see what it does. Alright, so that should have saved it as a 4B. So, you know, just going through the motions as far as what you might necessarily come into. I just remember, like I said, and I'm still racking my brain as far as I'd have to go back and look at the actual VOD, I guess, from last week. We had a problem with the X section not being able to go behind like this. So you wouldn't have full functionality of the pit road because of the way we did the turn. So no, you wouldn't, you know, because we already went through that in the previous stream there, Barfy, because yeah, this is how we ended up between this way and what I've had shown initially as far as on the stream. We tried, instead of going this way, we went down pit road. So in order to get that nice trajectory going into turn 1, this was the only best option. So as far as you can't swing it too much, because you got to accommodate, I guess, for this coming out, because this is so close as it is. So there's no room for that. So well, I'm gonna go, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and save this. I haven't closed it yet, so I've saved this. I'm gonna do a new and actually close it right out and go back into it. I saved it as 4B, so let's check that out. Go back into it. You know, and like I said, it may be just a personal preference of mine, but I don't like that wonkiness that's in that infield. I know you're not going to see it, but I'm going to know it's there, and I think it's sloppy. I'll just put it that way. Alright, so let's give this a second to load. There we go. Alright, so it didn't give me a recenter or anything like that, so this is what I have. This is exactly the same way I saved it. Now, if I was to consider as far as where the center line is located, that's another thing. Okay. Barring everything else, as far as where the center line is, it's pretty much the same location that I had it initially. So that does fix that problem, I guess, if anything, too. So I may have necessarily talked myself into it. This bugs me. It really does. As far as just not being able to move, I have no room. So like if I needed to apply any F sections or anything of that nature, the fact that, you know, as far as trying to make a model to fill this void, I would have to deal with this, and it just bugs me. I'd rather have a straighter line. Let's see. My center line was more towards the right side of the ramp instead of down pit road. Gave me a larger radius. What do you mean the ramp? I don't know what you mean by the ramp. See, what you have to consider, though, and this is what we dealt with last week there, Barfy, is the fact that if you make this too tight of a radius, you know, as far as to swing it out, you have to have the ability to move this X section out so that you can have the functionality of pit road. The thing that we were dealing with last week, and this is what I recall, and this is why we went with the other way, taking the center line down pit road, was we weren't able to move this X section out far enough because AI cannot cross. They don't have the ability. It's only, you know, as far as the open on left or right, that only applies to a player car. AI car, if they see an X section here, you know, crossing in their path, they can't navigate it. So turn to ramp, I don't know what you, I'm not sure what you mean, but yeah, so barring all that, as far as like what all that's called, But see, if you were to do that, what you're considering, and we went through this last week, if you go out too far, you're not leaving enough room, I guess, to allow this to happen. You're going to be we're already too close as it is with this one. I mean, you want to bring this out as far as possible. I mean, I could probably move this in just a little bit more. I need to do an unlock. I could probably move this in just a little more, just to make room, I guess, for this direction, so that they're not so close together. But yeah, you don't want to swing that out too far to the right of. And I get what you're saying, but you got to leave room, I guess, for them going in this direction. So I hope that makes sense. So if what you're saying you did as far as like to come out more towards the right side of this score tower, you're not leaving any room for this to come through, because they go in on the left side of the score tower and come out on the right side of the score tower. Hoping that makes sense. I'm not trying to knock your theory down, but then you also, as far as if you're making, this is what we dealt with last week, and this is what I don't understand why it still doesn't exist here, not being able to move this X section in far enough so that the ability of the AI can use this pit road. So just adjust the X section to the same as where it is now. Yeah, left of the score tower is the pit road, but they still, that's the pit road exit, you know, as far as like that. Yeah, they have to use this left side here, I guess, as the pit road. Right. Now, I probably did said that wrong. So this left side of the score tower is the pit road exit, but yeah, that was something else. Yeah, isn't that something else that we had considered too there, James, as far as when we laid this down this trajectory? Was we took the center line down the exit, the pit road exit, instead of putting it. Yeah, so that's probably a fair mention there too, Barfy. We did try to take the center line, I guess, as far as down where they actually come here. Okay, so yeah, I had to refresh my memory there a little bit. So yeah, this is the pit exit, right? So we took it down this way so we would have a bigger radius, as opposed to, and maybe that's what I'm trying to remember as far as why we had such a problem as far as being able to move that out, because we took the center line initially down to the right side, but we had them both side by side, so the center line was more on this side, and that's why we couldn't move it out enough. And then we decided, it's like, well, how about we try to go down what's pit road and go that way, and I think that's why we ended up with what we had, initially coming into the stream. So right, yeah, and it isn't ideal, but this isn't an ideal course either, as far as what we've already discussed. So I mean, in theory, as far as functionality, it would probably work. As far as to the AI won't, for example, as far as like the way this is, this X section here is far enough out of the way where the AI is not going to have a problem. So if, say for example, if this X section, and again, I think this is the reason I say this is because when we ran the center line this way, as far as to have it this way instead of going down the pit exit, you weren't able to move it like we can here now. So in considering this type of layout, you'd be better off taking the center line this way rather than way out this way, because you're going to be too short on that part of the on this side of the track segment to move that X section out enough so that it doesn't cause an issue for the AI in particular. So yes, in theory, as James mentioned, this would probably work. It just, what I consider now is I won't be able to put an F section or something like that on this side of the X section in order to fill this void potentially, I would have to use a model to fill that. You know, in this little wonkiness here. So that's going to show. You'd be able to see that like a bad eyesore as far as I'm concerned in this spot, because you'd be able to tell that this is a model, and then that wall would be right there, which is actually geometry. That would be F and W section. Very slim line there, and that's what I don't like. You know, so the other way that I've got that I had initially coming into the stream, I have the ability to be able to move this, you know, better than that. That's what I like. So I'm kind of pondering it now as far as what's either way would probably work. I'm just thinking in terms of as far as building an infield object, you know, to cover this void. That's what I'm comparing now as far as using this one or the previous one. Yep, that's an option too. So that, but again, see the fact that this is I can't turn this to a Caladian. So in order to do that, you're going to run into this problem. And that is a problem. So like, I cannot adjust this to Euclidean. So it doesn't give me the ability to move it, to put an F section far enough and still leave room, I guess, for this piece right here, because we don't want that tight. Yeah, but do you see what I'm talking about though? If I do this way, okay, I don't want to squeeze this all the way up. There's not a whole heck of a lot of room right there. I mean, yes, I can probably put an F section right there if I was to zoom in enough. It's going to be very small though, because that W is going to be right there. So it leaves me very little room. I hope you're seeing what I'm talking about though. It's not really going to leave a whole lot of room, I guess, to do much because of the fact that I can't straighten this out. That's what I consider. I'm not knocking it at all. I'm not saying this is entirely unusable. I'm just saying, thinking in terms of, if I was, okay, let me try to elaborate. I cannot put an F section here to straighten this line out. So if I wanted to build a model to fill this void in, I won't be able to do that. I would have to deal with this curve that's right there. I don't want to have to do that. I think it would look stupid. I think you will see it though. As far as the model is concerned, you're going to see that difference between where this F section is and where the model is. You're going to see that arch right there. 100%. I can guarantee it. So the fact that I cannot straighten this out is what bugs me. If I could straighten this out, then there would be no issue. Exactly. Geometry is based on F sections. So if I was to make, if I was to spit this out as a DAE, if I had all the F sections and such in here, and, you know, as far as the track is concerned, it's going to have this little arch in here. So I would have to create a model to accommodate that arch in there. You're going to see that in the model. You know, and as far as I would have to make a 3DO that accommodates this arch. I couldn't make it straight, otherwise there would be a hole there. And that's what I don't want to do. That's what I consider. That's just the analness of me, I guess you suppose. You know, and somewhat in a way, I guess I can somewhat think what you're saying, but I'm pondering right now as far as to consider. So basically, I guess what I think of is, okay, as long as I can put an F section all the way along this, and it's got enough room, I guess, on this side of the X section, I shouldn't have to worry about this. Okay. And you're probably 100% correct. So from that standpoint. So in other words, if I was able to put at least an F section along this wall to include, I guess, even a double section, I don't have to combine them. I could, but I don't have to. That X section is not going to matter. And you're probably right now that I think of it in that terms. Because, yeah, when you spit out a DAE, for example, as far as if I was to put the track geometry into 3D SimEd and spit out a DAE, this X section, it's not going to consider that. It's going to look at the F section more than it is the X section. So from that standpoint alone, that probably does make sense. So, right. Yeah, and I'm just thinking out loud at this point. And this is something that, it's good to have some interaction with chat to consider. I think both options, to be perfectly honest, as far as what I've showed previously, as far as the center line going down pit road or going in this direction, but either one would probably work. But the only downside with the other one that I think of is how much it moved that center line from where I initially had it. This one's actually more in the place where I had it initially. And especially not being able, not having to adjust the background image. It's still the same as what I had it before. So, I think ultimately, just with those two aspects alone, I think taking the center line down the pit road, you don't even need that one. I think that those are toss-aways. I'll probably still hold on to them, but those are definitely toss-aways. Is that a fair enough assessment? I'm just looking for insight here. And it's nice to have this type of insight, because when you're building these types of things, you got to think of all those types of things, because I want to get all these little nuances, I guess, taken care of before I even consider applying any F or W sections, and to include textures, because once that process starts, it becomes much more difficult, I guess, to adjust all that. I want to take care of all those little problems, I guess, prior to moving forward. So, all right. I mean, the more I look at it, it does make sense to me. I mean, just the fact that I can put an F section in here. In fact, let's just, I mean, as much as that does bug me, you're not going to see it, and I get that. The fact that you can only see it here that's the only place you're going to see it is if you open it up in Sandbox. But let me put it on this segment. So if I wanted to I'm just going to put it down here as the makeshift one for now. An F section here, and this one I should be able to mark it as Euclidean. Didn't really move it Euclidean. Hold on. There it goes. See, I can make that straight, and that's good. As well as still be able to put a W section in there too, and it's not. There should be still enough room. Let me try here. All right, mark that as Euclidean. Yep. See, so I can make that straight and still put a W section in there. Only consideration is AILP on exit of pit road. Is that going to be too close to 90 degrees from center line? Good question. So, whoops. Good question. So, I think we've got enough radius here to where it shouldn't be. But, yeah, as far as, and what you're saying is, as far as like, is that too much of a 90 degree? I think it's going to be that way, regardless of which way we go. As far as which, if we take the center line this way, I think that's going to be a problem regardless, as far as the LPs are concerned. If that's going to be too much of a 90 degree for them to come off, it's like, say an AI car has that first pit stall, is it going to be able to turn and get on that exit, that pit exit? That's something I've already considered right off the bat, to be honest. I think that probably may necessarily pose an issue for the AI. That we won't be able to determine without doing some testing. So I think with all that said, this is a very good discussion, to be honest, because these are some things you would have to consider as far as applying this type of. I honestly don't know either, but just understanding the behavior, I guess, as far as AI with LPs go, they really do get kind of funky, I guess, as far as if they have to make, a complete 90-degree turn, I guess, to get out, because of like D-long and D-lat offsets. Like I said, that's probably going to require, I guess, quite a bit of testing, I guess, to see if that's going to be an issue. Another reason, I guess, why I don't particularly care to mess around with road courses. I mean, I know I say that a lot, but you have to deal with lots of these types of things. You don't really have to deal with it as much with just a regular oval. So, but this is primarily why I have considered doing such a project. Is it's a little bit more challenging. Trying to think back to that track we had issues with pit road on the outside. I think that was at Irwindale. I think that was something you were working on. Oh, Bowman Gray. I don't remember. Yeah, that one I don't remember. 100% for sure. But yeah, that's probably. All right, so I think what I'll do at this point, I'll leave those F sections there. I'm going to save this again as a new PTF. I always want to get an Avid, save it as a separate PTF every time you make a change. Don't ever save on the same PTF. Okay, so I'm going to save as. I'm going to do this one as 4C. I'm going to still keep, in this case, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's kind of going the other direction as far as with the center line going down pit road. So I'll kind of put those on the side. So moving forward, I might necessarily go even to like track 9 or just continue on with 4 until I get to Z and then just move on. That's probably so that's something else to consider too as far as how you name your tracks. Something that I've necessarily gone over before, primarily what you would rather do. For my purposes, this works for me as far as I kind of know what's going on with them. But you may consider, for anyone divulging in this type of thing, to actually put a little footnote in how you save it as far as like what's going on with it. So like, say for example, and I can do that actually. I'm going to close this, do a new, and close it right out. So instead of just naming it as I've got them here as far as like track 4 and so on, what I can do at this point is rename this. Let's just do it this way, because you have this ability. I'm going to name it Charlotte _ Roval, which is primarily the way I do it usually anyway. Name it what I've got the track folder named as, and then just tag onto it, put another underscore, and this one is center line. I'll just put center line out. And what that is going to help me remember is that the center line is going to be outside, as far as the outer, track, not down pit road. Now, as far as these, as far as track 5 and what have you, those are going to be in, the center line will be in. So you can name them however you want, whatever is going to help you remember, I guess, as far as what's going on with that PTF, but that's just something that you can take into consideration. Usually I'll continue this type of naming convention until I get the track in game, then start branching off where it can get, yes. Yeah, and that's kind of the direction I was going with it, to be honest there, James, yeah. As long as it makes sense to you, you're not stepping on or overwriting yes. Exactly. Yeah, and that's 100% true as far as like, don't ever try to save over a previous PTF, especially when you're at this process. you'll eventually get to a point where if you're making small changes like just moving a 3DO or something like that, that you can necessarily use a previous PTF. A lot of the reasoning behind saving to a separate PTF is when you're dealing with geometry. That's probably first and foremost. Like I said, as far as like if you're just moving 3DOs around, it's just to move it a smidge or stuff like that. A lot of times you can get away with just overwriting, I guess, that original PTF. But even then, it's just good practice to get into that discipline of saving to a new PTF anytime you make a change to the track, no matter if it's geometry or just moving 3DOs and what have you. Just get into that habit. So that way you always have something to fall back onto, because there is no undo or reverting, I guess, in Sandbox, as well as there's no persistence to save a backup of a PTF. So you always have a backup prior to making changes, I guess, to a track, no matter what you do. So that's probably a huge mention, I guess, as far as moving forward. Yep, X section work is the buggiest to include banking. It is literally generating a new mesh when changing. Yes, and that's a huge one when it comes to geometry. It doesn't matter if you're moving X sections in or out, if you're deleting them, adding some in, changing the trajectory of the properties, the interpolation of the X section. That's a huge change, and like I said, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why you want to save it to a new PTF when you make those types of changes, for sure. Definitely. So again, moving forward, my naming conventions, I'm gonna go ahead and just follow what I was suggesting there. You don't have to do this. Like James was saying, he would necessarily just keep the PTFs relatively generic up until you get to the point where you put it in the game. Then you'll start saving your PTFs, I guess, as far as what your actual track folder and your track DAT will be. So that way, any changes you make moving from that point, you won't even have to rename the PTF. It'd just be a matter of stepping off, I guess, the tag that you got as far as what was involved with that PTF, and you've got the track name already. To even include that, being able to just put the PTF by itself into your game folder and test it out. To include any files that you've added, I guess, based on that PTF as well. And we'll probably end up going through and over a lot of that type of stuff as we do this. So what I am necessarily going to do is, like I said, follow my own advice. This one I'll do. I'm going to copy the properties of this one. Yep, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to do a rename. This will be, I'll do it as the same as the previous, but only just add a B to it so that I know. And I can't necessarily do the same thing with the SPX files. I always like to save those as well. This is, your own preference. You don't have to, but it's good practice too. Just to ensure that you've got what you need to have. So I'll keep the matching. I'm just going into the properties and copying the name after I've got it named what I want. One of the properties of this, whoops, and I want to do a rename. And like I said, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and take the liberty of doing so. So now I'm going to move forward with this. So I know that this is my C, so I'm going to do that one as well. That's all involving the same deal. Yeah, so I'll do paste. And then this one I'll do a C. I'll just capital on it. And the same goes, I'll do properties, copy that. And you'll find yourself doing this, I guess, once you're getting to the point where you're going to put it in the game. I'm kind of jumping the gun here a little bit, but just kind of want to show that that option off. What happened there? Whoops. No. Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, I guess I stepped on the extension name. I want to be careful with that. There we go. So do paste. There we go. Yeah, so I stepped on the extension there a little bit, and it'll let me know. So these right here moving forward is what I'll go with. these are taking the center line down pit road. So moving forward, this is how I know I don't need to use these. I'll probably just go with these. So just a little fair mention. So when I load up at this time, I know I can load up this one as far as center line out C. That's the one I'll need to open. So even with all that said, I think what I will do is take these out. I'll just cut these out, put those into my PTF folder. Yep, I want to overwrite all those. Should all be the same anyway. There we go. So that's all updated there. And for now, I'm going to keep all these in here for this session. So moving forward, this is what we're going to use. So when I'm going to load this back up, see what's going on there. All right. We're making some headway here for sure. So get this loaded. Give it a second. All right, so yeah, completely loaded here now. So yeah, still got the F section in there, so that's how I know that's good. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much where we're at now. I've moved the X section. I do like, for the most part, as far as how that center line is. Like I said, I can live with the fact that this got this little wonkiness in here. The fact we got the center line going down here, as opposed to over there, still leaving room on this side. This one here, I don't believe will have. I'm gonna probably go ahead and apply that right away. As far as open on the right through here, at least for sure, because we do want to have that ability to be able to go across that track segment. This one will have to be on the right as well. Kind of looking at it upside down, so this would be the left side of the segment, this is the right side, this is the left, that's the right, so I'm just double checking myself. So for sure, at least in this region, I want to make sure that it's open on the right. So you will have, like I said, you'll have kind of like a dead space here, so like if I didn't apply that there, that'd be an invisible barrier. So if you hit that, it's, yeah, I mean, nothing visible there, I guess, to let you know that it's okay. So alright, so I think we're good to go. So what I'll do now is just continue, I guess, to apply these F sections, I guess, through here. Let's make sure these are all connected. Yep, so far so good. So I'll just continue with that for now. How about that? So I'll insert F section. Yep, just make sure they're connected. There we go. And, oh, you know what? Just thought of something. Alright. Getting ahead of myself. See, I don't have the splits in here as far as the pin open. I can still do that. I'm going to take these F sections out for now then. In fact, I don't have any over here, so I'm good. Yeah, so let me get those splits in that region. And this is, let me double check. So this has got 55 segments and then it goes to 0. So that is the lead segment. Okay, so we're good there as well. Let's go ahead and apply the appropriate splits for our pit wall openings. I think that'd be a fair thing to do. So I'm going to right click on that, do a split segment, put one there, split segment, and I'll have to save a new PTF for sure. Let's get all of our splits in right away. Well, see, there's a difference though, James, with that. And the difference was all the, as far as the F section, the W sections were already applied. The fact that there's no F or W sections in here, yeah, that's the difference. As far as splitting the track up after you've got all your W and F sections applied and it messing up the texture skews and all that stuff, that's what I always yelled at. That's terrible. So this is totally different. I mean, this is definitely, if you're going to do any splitting at all, you want to do it at this point, this stage of the game. Because otherwise you're just dealing with a whole bunch of mess. Alright, so just, I'll go back through once I got all my splits in. And fix the interpolation, I guess, of the X sections. Make sure they're all mode absolute. Whoops. Split segment. So we want to split here. Split here. Okay. And I don't know if I want to put one here or not. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I didn't consider that, I guess, last time, but I'll put a split there and a split there. Alright, so we'll have this opening. That should be pretty good. That should suffice. Yep, got that one there, here. Yep, I think we should be good then. So, now what I need to do is make sure this is still lead segment, which it is. I'm going to have to save this again as a new PTF. And like I said, I've already gotten ahead of myself as far as naming. I mean, at least that'll be out of the way. But eventually this is what you'll end up getting to as far as like including the actual name of your track. Be your track folder in the track, the finishing DAT file. You want that to get to this point eventually. I'm a little early in the state. Like I said, I'm kind of jumping the gun, but that's one less thing I got to worry about then. So now that should be a D. Cool. Now I'll go ahead and exit out of that. I'll do a new. Exit out. Go right back in. That's something you want to get in the habit too doing, as far as just a refreshing sandbox, because it's a very buggy application. If you tend to stay in it for too long, as far as working in one session, and I consider it to be a session, is when you have sandbox open and you're working on stuff, if you haven't necessarily closed it out, until you close it out again, that's a session. So I've gotten into the habit of keeping my sessions within an hour, maybe an hour and a half at the most. A lot of times laying this stuff over here does take a little bit longer, but try to keep it as minimal as possible, so that way if it does tend to want to crash, you don't have so far as far as work to make up. So okay, so still makes you smirk. Yeah, talking about all the splitting. All right, so what we should have is, okay, it ends up being 63 segments now. All right. Yep, so 63 segments. I think the other one that we did there was 58, which is, it's not a big issue. I'm just comparing the two at this point. So this ends up having 63 segments with the splits, and yeah, we're at segment 0 on the other side of start finish line. So yeah, that's all good. Very good, very nice. So now, yeah, we can go into applying our F sections along this wall. So right click, insert F section. The more I think of it, I guess there will be enough room, to apply a W section in there. And even if I do end up having to put the W section on top, right on top of that F section, that should still not be an issue. So I'll put the F sections in here first. This is an opening, so I don't need anything there. Actually, yes, we will. Take that back. F section we will need still. W section we will not. Supper time? Yeah. Gotcha. Appreciate the lurk. Yeah, so I'm just gonna do some rather tedious work here. Yeah, for sure. I got some suppers for myself too. I just trying to keep these streams going on time. You know, as far as like, I know I've mentioned starting it up at the 5 p.m. time frame. Usually by the time I get off of here, I'm usually pretty darn hungry, so. And that's fine. I try to keep the streams about 3 hours, so usually about 8 o'clock. Usually a good time. So, yep. So we got our opening here. So still gonna put an F section. We just won't need a W section there. Made some pretty good progress there. I think, you know, the fact that we were able to discern what was the best angle of approach there for advancing this little project. Lots of things to consider, I guess, as far as when you're doing these types of things. I mean, you want to take advantage, definitely, as much as possible, what you have as far as the image. I mean, we got a really crisp image here for sure, so wanting to be able to take advantage of that as much as possible, which I think we are at this point. Oops, so this one I'll probably have to mark as Euclidean. Straighten it out. Yeah, so that'll have a little wonk there, but that's fine. Oops, I'm gonna do, let me unlock all geometry just to make sure. There we go. Okay. So yeah, so the fact that we can at least straighten out the okay, just trying to remember how that went there. Let's get these connected. Alright, so there'll be an opening here, so no W, but we do need an F section yet. Now, from this point, it's probably fair to mention if you do necessarily run into where you may have to split again somewhere. I don't think I should have to, but if you do find yourself needing to split down the, it's not a terrible thing, but you want to consider, I guess, as far as much as possible prior to doing your F and W sections is all. It saves you a lot of time as far as cleanup. That's for sure. So, oops. Sometimes this can be so zooming in a little bit sometimes helps as far as you get those heads and tails. The F sections completely interlocked. Alright. Alright, so yep, then we got right to the end of the wall there. Alright, let's have to. Alright. Okay, so we still need an F section here. Zoom in on that. Yeah, so as I was saying earlier too, as far as being able to apply LiDAR data, I guess, to this, you know, to and what the hope is, that's what we're leaning towards as far as being able to create a model, a 3D model of the elevation, you know, as far as the banking and all that stuff, and apply that as a mold to be able to apply that to the, I know I'm probably explaining it wrong, but as far as like basically applying a 3DO model of the track, you know, with the banking and all that stuff applied, and then use that as a guide as far as how high or low the X sections need to go as far as the banking. You'll be able to see that as far as the model bleed through or not, and that'll make more sense, I guess, once we get that to work. And I'm hoping it does work, to be honest. That's because I think that would be as close as we can be able to get, you know, in order to apply the appropriate amount of banking, instead of just, you know, going by data sheets as far as to say, you know, it's got 23 degrees of banking and just apply that as such. So even to consider applying, you know, little nuances in the surface itself, as far as like dips, like in the corners and stuff like that, should be able to have all that as well. In theory, of course. Alright, so we got that connected. It can sometimes be a little tedious. Yeah, see, like, I'll just have to move these in, which is not a big deal. No big deal there. Now, I don't remember, did I apply an opening here? Yeah. I think I did compensate for, yes I did. Alright, just checking to make sure. Okay, something else I did forget. I'm going to go back and do that right away. After I split here, I did not check the interpolation of these X sections here, so I want to do that. So we'll start with this opening. Yep, see this one, I'll just change it back to mode absolute. Got a little ahead of myself there, so yeah, mode absolute, change it to the white square. Alright, so it should primarily be right around the areas where I split, which is right here, as well as out here. Whoops. Yep, just right click on that, mode absolute. And over here as well. Okay, just click that. Mode absolute. Mode absolute. Alright, so I got that taken care of. Should not be any more. There might be one down here. Check that. Yep. Take care of all those. There. And that'll keep the X sections there, because as far as relatively flat until we get to that point of actually applying elevation change as far as banking and what have you. Whether or not I get to that point in this stream or not, we'll see how this goes as far as just laying out some of our initial F and W sections. But yeah, we'll just see how that goes. So I'll just move this in a little bit here. Yep, so I'm just going by this wall. I want to be able to put an F as well as a W section in there. Probably another F section, you know, to take care of. There's some like gravel here, so I'll probably want to put an F section there. Yeah, so I won't be able to mark that as a cladding, which is not a big deal. Not the big deal. So yeah, we're going to move this inwards now that we've got everything else where we need it to go. Now, this is what I talk about. So like if I wanted to put a split here, for example, I can still do that. It's not a big deal as far as already applying F sections. I don't have any textures or W sections. You know, there's not a lot of geometry in this thing. So if I did want to split this so I can accommodate for this opening, I can still do that. And in fact, I think I will do that. Let's go ahead and right click and split the segment. Yeah, we'll accommodate for this opening right here. Split segment. Actually, that's all I need to do. I goofed. Yeah, I should be able to just click out of that. So, yeah, if you don't want to use your split, you can just right click out of it. So like I did, I just went to split segment and I didn't want to use it. Just right click back out of it and it'll delete it, just so it won't split it. I only need that split right there. So I can move that wall inward. So that's still good. Now I want to check interpolation of the X section. Put that back to mode absolute. And that's something to get into the habit of doing as you split, as opposed to what I did. Otherwise I could have totally forgot about that. It's all about the discipline. So that's alright, so we're just going to continue moving this out, and if we've got any more splits we need to do, we can apply those appropriately. I'm just moving this actually section well enough out of the way so that I have room, I guess, to put F and or W sections. Okay, so this one should already have, yep, that ends here. I could put another split here if I wanted to, yeah, to accommodate this opening. So I'll go ahead and do that. Yep, so now I'll have, oh, must have right clicked out of it, okay. That happens. There we go. So we got that one here, so I can accommodate this opening. I want to check my X sections. Come on. Mode absolute there. Mode absolute there. Cool. Alright, so yep, just continue moving this along. Yep, I've got the appropriate opening, I guess, to accommodate this little, it's kind of a little dip in the wall here. I want to be able to apply that. Yep, as well as this here, it's got this opening here. I've already accommodated for that. Yeah, this will look good. Yep, we got a pretty long stretch right here. We can move this. Ooh, see now, hold on here. See, I got a little too carried away here, so this is crossing over. Alright, so I'll probably move that right about here, just so that it's got enough padding for this. Yeah, that could have necessarily caused a problem as far as that X section crossing over. In fact, Sandbox would have probably barked at me. For sure. So, just kind of create some padding, I guess, in between those two X sections. That shouldn't be too bad. Yep, got enough room there. I don't think I'm going to worry about this opening right here. Some of these, I guess, it's probably not 100% necessary. This one does have an opening here too. I might end up talking myself into doing that. Definitely going to need to resave the PTF after I do this. Okay. Yeah, since I don't use that part of the track, it should be fine. I do probably want to, yeah, I still want to probably, I don't know how I'm going to do that, if it's just going to be in the form of a 3DO or what have you, to, you know, still create that, you know, even though it's not actually driven on. That'll still be determined yet. Okay, let's see if I can move this one in. Yeah, we're going to end up having a really tight radius there, but that should be okay. Alright. So, now what I want to do, with all that done, I'm going to save this as a new PTF since I moved that all in there, so it's got that pretty much where we want it. Even though this F section isn't 100% closed in, that's okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and save this as a new PTF. And looks like we're already on 4E, moving up this progression of that. And I may or may not, once I get the Z, like on the 4Z, I'll just go like a double A, yeah. So you get the idea as far as how that works. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and go in new, go exit, and open it right back up. Making pretty good time on this, really, to be honest. Lots of discussion, I guess, as far as what we could do and shouldn't do. And that's primarily the reason, I guess, we conduct these streams, to be honest. To any type of issues that you would run into, it's like, how would you necessarily deal with that? Barfy, I'm not sure if he's still in the stream, as far as asking the question as far as the invisible walls, and how that works as far as explaining that left and right function as far as on any given section. So yeah, that's what we're here for. So moving forward, continue putting our F sections in here. Did this one I mark as a cladian? It's kind of got this wonkiness here in the wall, so I might put another split in there, I guess, to accommodate that, so that it's not straight. So otherwise it would just go straight. So I think I will put another split right here. Alright, so we're going to just, it's going to unlock all geometry. Just right click outside the track. Did I put that where I wanted it? Maybe I did that wrong. I did. Son of a gun. Okay, I'm gonna, let me start that over. Do a no. I'm gonna reload that. I goofed. And this is why you save as a separate PTF. So I'm gonna load that back up. Give that a second. Alright, so yeah, something I didn't look at too, as far as after resaving, good thing to always check to make sure where your lead segment is. Right now we're at 65 segments, and it should be 0. So it's like, however many number of segments should be on the one side, on your lead segment should always be 0. So as long as those are that way, and then considering as far as the direction of your track too, the fact that this is counterclockwise, that's the way that should be. If it's not, then something's wrong. Okay. So yeah, what I want to do is in this segment here, I just didn't put it where I needed to be. That looks better there. And now I want to unlock all the geometry, click outside the track, and change this interpolation of that, as well as out here. It's a good habit, like I said, to get, if you're going to split, adjust them right away, so we don't have to worry about it later on. So now I'll have the adjustability of that, like so. That'll be a little bit better. It's not 100% correct, but at least it's got, follows more of that guideline there. I like that a little better. Gotta leave room for the W section. And you'll find yourself adjusting these F sections and what have you, I guess, as you go. So they're not at all considered to be 100% set in stone. Okay, so let's get that connected there. Yep, that's good. So this one, I might mark as Euclidean. We'll put a straight line there. Considering that gravel. Yep. I can move this out just a little more. Okay. Alright. That section. A lot of this work like this tends to be a little bit tedious. So just do one thing at a time though. I think that's probably, I know I kind of tend to go all over the place. That's just something that I'm used to being able to do, but what you should necessarily consider to do is do one thing at a time. So like, don't, at this point, don't really consider putting in your W sections right away. Put all your F sections in first, as far as in this case within the infield, and then move on to your W sections and so on. don't get too caught up, I guess, in trying to get everything done, in any particular section right away. Kind of do it in stages. So like what I'll do next after I do all the F sections is put the W sections in. And once I get all that done, I'll do the outside the same way, as far as the outside of the track, as far as out here. And then I'll move inward and start putting F sections like for the painted lines and stuff like that. That's the kind of the approach you want to take to it. Okay. And it's sometimes really tough, I guess, to get into that discipline too. It's you want to get it all done like right now. It's like, but when you're doing a scratch build, that's you want to take. You got to have patience. I guess that's what I'm trying to convey there. You got to have patience. All right. Yeah, sometimes it can be a little pain as far as getting these connected, which you definitely want to make sure they're connected. And it usually helps, I guess, just to zoom in a little bit. Okay, what I'm considering here, yeah, so I'll have to probably put maybe another F section in here, and I'm not going to do it right now. But as far as to accommodate, I guess, this line as far as the end of the gravel, yeah, so I'll have to deal with that a little bit differently. I can do that later on. So I want to get my initial ones, and that's the type of thing I'm talking about. Don't worry about those little finer details like that. You can kind of keep those as a footnote, kind of a back thought in your mind as far as like what you might have to deal with. But somewhere along down the line, you will be able to deal with it eventually. Just don't bother yourself with those finer details, right away. Get into the discipline of, just taking your time, do one thing at a time. Yep, sometimes it can be a real pain, I guess, to get these things connected, but yep, move it back and forth. Alright, so I'm good there so far. Yeah, stuff like this gets to be somewhat pretty tedious. Not gonna lie. You can kind of zoom in and out to kind of see where you're at, so you know what part you're dealing with. And you might find yourself using a different approach. Like if you wanted to go throughout an entire segment and lay down your F sections as far as on the inside and outside, you could do that too. Just like I said, don't get too carried away with, applying too much at one time. Like you may, like in this section, for example, you might want to find yourself putting F section here, put your W section, start laying some. Don't do that. It's just going to make it more. I mean, you can do what you want. Don't get me wrong, but it's a bad habit to get into as far as that goes, because all that does then is it just creates more work for you to do later on, as far as as far as taking things out. I'm just conveying, I guess, my experience, I guess, with doing this type of thing for so long. Alright, so come on now, I'm gonna connect. You goofy thing. Anyway, sometimes you just gotta zoom in. Yep. And I'll go. Common keys, like I said, that you'll use as far as navigating around here is the Z, X, and the C key, as well as your mouse pointer. So you'll be using those a lot as far as this type of process is concerned. Come on. There we go. Yep, so just gonna zoom in a little bit more. Alright, now this is the area there we don't want to move this too much, because we got to accommodate for this X section for this segment here. Don't want those to cross over. So I could consider, I guess, for this opening here, I think there's enough. I can put a W section here. Yeah, that should be good enough, I feel. Yep. Yeah, don't get too carried away, I guess, with the finer details like that as well. I've seen a lot of track builds, I guess, get a little too carried away with trying to get, just the fine tune. You get several splits, I guess, for, to accommodate this bend in the wall, say, for example. Keep your splits to a minimum. The shorter your segments are and the more splits that you have in any given region, it's going to cause problems, period. I mean, that's just the way the game is designed or whatever. You want to keep your segments as big as possible without, like this back there's no reason I need to split this, for example. I don't have any openings in the walls. There's no major anomalies, I guess, in the wall or anything like that. Just leave it that size. If you wanted to accommodate, I guess, so closely, I guess, the trajectory of this wall, and to split the segment up so much, keep that to a minimum. And that goes back to what James and I have always argued about as far as like splitting so much. I sum it up to like this: if you had a film strip, a piece of film strip, the old projector style film strips that have the two reels, if you were to tend to split that up so many times, I guess, to kind of make cuts into it and then try to re-append it back together, it's going to skip. And that's essentially what you'll experience as far as either driving on it or even watching a replay as far as on a track that has a lot of splits in it. You're going to notice those. It's going to be highly noticeable. So that in itself is good enough reason to keep the splits to your track segments as minimized as possible. If anything, if it comes down to as far as trying to create a wall or something that has quite a bit of curvature or whatever like that, you can do that with 3D modeling as well, to make those types of aspects. You don't have to necessarily apply everything in the geometry. I think you've shown that quite a few times as far as in other streams, as far as can't think of one right off the top of my head, but plenty of occasions that I can necessarily consider that. Alright. Yep, so we're just continuing. So we're getting into this tight area here, and I was initially already pretty concerned as far as how that's going to work out. So we'll just go this way. Continuing to put our F sections in this area on the inside. And like I said, I'm not going to lie, a lot of this type of this part is pretty tedious. There's no quicker way, I guess, to do it other than the way I'm doing it right as I'm showing. Let's see. Yeah, I want to keep this. I figured I might have to adjust this a little bit. Yep. So I'm going to keep this out. Yeah, so again, so like this little bend that's in the wall here, don't have to get so particular with that. I mean, to split that area, I guess, to kind of accommodate that, it's, I guess it's minuscule, I guess, is to say the least. I mean, if I really, really wanted to, I could go ahead and split this so I could accommodate this little bow that it's in this part of the track there. But it comes down to it's like, is it really necessary? Because that's what I've seen in a lot of track builds, especially scratch track builds, as far as get a little carried away with the number of segments that are split. I mean, yeah, you do necessarily want to consider, I guess, these openings like this, things like that, but those are many aspects that you have to consider as far as like how much detail do I want to put into it. you know, in that regard. So, you know, and is it significant enough to, I guess, actually apply that? And the more I say that, I think I will just go ahead and split this, because I think I've got enough room. Hey, welcome back, James. How was your dinner? Yeah. So, I know what you caught what I was saying there as far as like minimizing, I guess, the number of splits in your track segments, and relating that, I guess, as far as how it does relate, I guess, to like the old film strip reels that have the two reels, you know, like the old 8mm film type of thing. If you were to cut that up and try to reappend it, you're always going to see those skips in it. And that's kind of what I relate as far as applying too many splits in your track segments to be. You're gonna not only feel it in the track, but you're gonna see it like in the replay as far as like where those segments are if you make your segments too small. And I've seen this plenty of times in tracks that are split just like crazy. I mean, it's sometimes there's just no reason for it. So yeah, I think that actually was a good decision, I guess, to do that, to kind of accommodate this little bow that is in there. So this is these small minor tweaks, I guess, to and I think, you know, going, you know, back over that, I think that's more what I tried to argue, I guess, you know, with splitting, you know, as far as always getting on each other's case about splitting so much, is that just that notion. Not only do you step on, I guess, the textures skews, but you're creating another splice, I guess, into that film strip, you know, as far as like you got bumps to deal with that you're definitely going to feel, as well as when you're watching a replay. I guess that's what I consider too. When you're watching a replay, you're going to see that skip in there, because that segment is not as long as it really should be. So definitely, as you're applying your track segments, you want to keep them as big, and I use that term loosely, as possible. So like in this area, for example, there's no reason to split this up any further than it already is. There's no reason to. So to have a split there, you know, absolutely no reason. I've seen a lot of tracks built in such a fashion. It's just like there's splits in areas that you don't even need it. So use your splits sparingly. There's a tongue twister for you. Alright, so I think I can mark this one as a cladian. Yep. Kind of straighten that up a little bit. Alright. Yeah, so here's another good, you know, you got this little curve that's here. Don't try to split the segments up, whatever, try to comment. You could make a 3D model of this, because the fact that they don't even use this part of the track, they come out this way, you could still put a W section in here, you know, between, you know, this one here, to make a collidable barrier, say, for example, you know, or even don't go so far as to open, you know, to open on leave it closed, as far as that don't open on left in this case, and you would get that collidable barrier. But you could make a 3D model, I guess, of this barrier, instead of trying to split that up and get that trajectory. I've seen a lot of that happen with track builds too, and it's unnecessary. You know, because you create a huge you know, like a little ripple, I guess, as far as, you know, the bump, you know, because that's another common thing I hear complained about, as far as the way, well, there's a bump there in the track. Is this like, well, you would have designed, I guess, the track a little bit better without splitting it so much, it probably wouldn't have that bump there. You know, it's just oh, sorry, I didn't mention to catch up with check there, James. Move the outer X section early on in the process to alleviate the drawing issue. Do it before detail splitting, because you... Oh, yeah, and that's probably fair mention too. So what James is referring to that's probably a fair point too. So this outermost X section, it's really a throwaway kind of in a way, especially for this type of build. We don't need it to use it or anything. So to move that way out as far as you can get it, it's gonna fix any drawing issues. So as far as being able to put your drawing distance at 100%, you're not going to get any clipping. As far as when you're far away. So like if you're, say for example, if you're coming down the back stretch, if you move that X section way out there, you're not going to see the track clipping as far as like disappear, like in a bubble. So yeah, that was probably something I missed. And I don't have a ton of segments in here, but yeah, when you do get into the point where you're going to end up with, several, 300 meters from center line. Yeah, that's probably a good baseline too. But yeah, as far as like, before you get into, having so many segments, like right now we have 65 segments. That's coming up in here because there's 0 on this side, so there's 65 segments in, which isn't too bad. You wouldn't have to do the road course sections, but at least yeah, exactly. So you don't have to do it to, in fact, you can't really, because like in here, I wouldn't be able to stretch those out anyway as far as when I come to this area, because then I've already had to accommodate for, you want to be very careful as far as not crossing X sections. Sandbox will definitely crash, as well as the game will crash. It won't let you save that PTF. That'll become a corrupted PTF if you try to save it when you got crossed over X section. So definitely try to keep as much padding between your X sections, especially if you're dealing with segments that are going in opposite directions, as in this case. So this one's going this way, this one's going that way. If I was to cross that, that's not good. Not good. So, yeah, like James is saying, I'm going to finish off these F sections first, and then I can adjust these outermost X sections out. And like James suggested, as far as even to go roughly 300 meters from the center line, that way you can get a nice, nice distance, I guess, from that. Alright, so I want to finish up these F sections here. Alright, so let's move this right along. Whoops, zoom in a little bit. Yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain as far as to get these to lock in. There we go. Okay, so insert section. I'm just trying to see. More than likely going to need at least one initial F section towards this outer F section just to fill in any. Yep, and I'm going to keep it away from that X section for now. I might necessarily end up having to overlap that, I guess, with that, as far as interlock the X section with the F section so that there's no gaps in the texture. So I can't move it in any further. That's the only thing, as far as like if I squeeze that too much more, I can move it maybe like that, but that's probably about it. But yeah, pretty tight radius there. So, but yeah, I'm gonna keep the F section off that for now. Yeah, see, that's as far as I can move this, and that's as far as I can really move that without pinching it too much. So I'm not going to do that at this point, James. No, I don't. I go what you're saying, but I think this needs to stay where it's at as far as the center line. Yeah, I think it's far enough out of the way, as far as, because they're only going to come through here. Like I said, I get what you're saying as far as to try to move this out further, but I already don't really want to do that. I think that's going to wonk it up. So, and that's just my own I've dealt with enough of these types of things to know that's probably what's going to happen. But I like, the trajectory of this center line is where I want it. I'm not going to freaking mess with it. because I've got 1, 2, 3 segments here that I'd have to deal with at least to change that. So that's 3 times, I guess, possible disaster as far as yeah, not too comfortable with that. And maybe I'll come back to that, I guess, once I get these F sections done, but we'll see. Alright, let's yeah, I'm just keeping that well enough distance away for now. This area of the track obviously isn't used, so I'll probably have to model that if I do anything. That'll be later on, but alright, so it's going to continue putting these F sections along this path. And yeah, I'm still on the inside technically. You know, just continuing in this route, so I'm going to have to go all the way around through here. Yep, so there's a lot of F sections I guess we got initially layout. Alright, so let's do that. Okay. Yeah, this can be probably one of the biggest pains, is just trying to get the F sections to lock. Yep. Got to do a lot of moving in and out to get them lined up. A lot of times they will kind of snap, you know, if you move it like quick enough, as opposed to like, you know, more precisely. But yeah, sometimes they'll just snap right into place. I know that, like, especially if you do W sections, they will do that as well. Yeah. So if you move it in enough of a fluid fashion or whatever, it'll tend to snap out of, you know, more automatically. But yep, see this like that. The shorter segment, that's probably another reason why you don't want to deal with you know, shortening your segments up too much, because if you get those short segments, it's even tougher to do that than it is the bigger sections. Because at least with the bigger sections, you have more room, I guess, to move it. You know, as far as to select the actual end, you know, the tail or the head. You know, when you got those shorter segments, it makes it a lot more difficult. It can't be as precise. So, alright, so yeah, I just want to continue applying all these F sections. I like to get as much of these F sections and possible W sections laid out as possible for this segment of the stream. Keeping a close eye, I guess, on how long we're into this. We're already approaching almost 2.5 hours. Keeping in mind the uptime is about 20 minutes short. I got that going a little late. So, yeah, I'm just going to keep on the trek of... I probably would have had a lot more done had we not had more discussion with which approach to take with the center line as far as going down the pit road or the outer oval. Which I think it was a pretty good decision to go with the one we have here, because probably more than one reason, actually, as we already have mentioned. Okay, just want to make sure that's connected. So right in here, obviously it does give me enough room, I guess, to put other F sections or even X sections to apply like a elevation change for the curbing. Kind of similar to a lot of other road courses that have curbing. Potentially, at least, anyway. Alright, so we're just continuing on our path here. A lot of tedious work. You know, if there was a way, I guess, to copy an F section for... And once you've got the F sections down, you can do that. But as far as if there was a quicker way to apply F sections, so you didn't have to do the right click and so on and get it attached and all that jazz. You definitely use it, but there really isn't one. This is really about your only method. Alright. We're moving along pretty good actually, and that's the advantage, I guess, of keeping your whoops. Did that wrong. Wrong one. So you can right click out of that. I mentioned that earlier, as far as if you like I just did, as far as like I had the split select, you can just right click out of it to cancel, I guess, doing the split. Yeah. Yep. So let me see what I got. I could probably move this section. Yeah, I'm gonna move this in just a little bit. I can leave some room there because there's got a painted line as long as the racing surface edge. So yeah, I can move this in. It's got a wall here as well. So we could probably move this in quite a bit. Yep. Alright, so we'll probably end up having to adjust it a little bit more as we go, but just want to get this moved in about there for now. Oop. Small segment there. Okay, so we're coming back up to pit road here, so we probably won't be able to adjust this too much more. This is probably how that's going to end up, which is fine. Okay, go back to where we end up with our F sections here. Zoom in a little bit. I'm just going to keep that there for now. We'll probably end up having to move that in or adjust it later. For now, I'll just leave it like that. This I think I can mark as a clad in. Yeah. Not too bad there. Yeah, that should be alright. It's kind of doesn't follow that, but I don't really want to split that again. I could if I really wanted to get, you know, but it all comes down to, as far as like keeping your track segments, I guess, as big as possible, you know, as far as, you know, not try to get every little detail, I guess, and as far as trajectory of walls and such like that. I don't think that's going to be a huge difference. Yeah, I think this will work fine. Alright. Have to zoom in a little bit. Whoops, wrong key. Yeah, like I said, this part of the process here can get a little bit tedious amongst many aspects, I guess. You know, like a lot of this stuff is very tedious, you know, but it does tend to answer the question is, well, what takes so long, I guess, to build a track? Well, this is why we're doing these things. So alright. Yep, so this one here. Okay, see, I might be able to split this one again. I'm thinking because I want to be able to keep this as straight as possible. I can't do that this way. Yeah, that's a huge issue there, because I want to be able to keep this straight. Okay, well, before I do that, I'm going to save it with all this done. I'm going to close this up. So at least I got that innermost F section, first initial one, applied. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to save it this way. And up to F. Moving right along on that. Okay, now I'm going to do... Oh, let me verify that it's there. Oh, for crying out loud. Clicking on all kinds of stuff I shouldn't be. Alright, so... Yep, got my F here. That's good to go. So I'm going to do a new, close right out of it, open it back up, refresh the whole program. Alright. You're maximizing the window. Whoops. Give that a second. Huh, it's funny how that's not actually showing up on the screen there, but it's monitor's refreshing. Alright. Alright, so F is our last one here. There we go. Now what I'll do is see what I can do to split that area by the pit exit here so I can straighten this out. Because I don't want this way out here like this, because, yeah, that's not going to bode well for... And whether or not I can, I think I should be able to. It should leave me enough room. So, right click and split that segment. And I'm just going to point this to roughly the end of that pit wall so I can move the F section there. I might give it a little bit more room. It's not quite in half on the segment. There we go. And right away, whoops, I gotta unlock all geometry, click outside the track, zoom back in, change the interpolation of that as well as here. Zoom in on that. Yep. Cool. Alright. So now I should be able to move this F section there. See if I can mark that as Euclidean. That shouldn't be too bad. It's got a little bit of don't know if I like that. So I'd have to move it all the way out here to get it straightened out. So I might have to approach that differently, and this is why I saved a separate PTF. So I can try those things, because what's going to happen if I do it like this, we need this area open, because that's where the pit exit is. So we need the wall to end basically where this concrete, this texture is. So let me see. Maybe just build the line, intersect the end of the wall. So probably, yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I actually took it beyond it. But yeah, you're probably right. Yep. Yep. So let me close this one. I'm not going to save that one. So I'm going to reopen F. Alright, give that a second. Okay, right away I'm going to go ahead and unlock all geometry. Alright, so let's go back to that area. Yeah, so yeah, I think you're right. And I was kind of thinking if I overshot it a little bit, it would give me a little bit more room, but yeah, that doesn't work like I thought it would. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and split this and just right about there. So my F section should land right there. Alright, so I'll make sure I change interpolation of this as well as over here. Gosh darn it. Oh, come on. There we go. Mode absolute. Go. So now I should be able to move this. I'm going to mark this as Euclidean. I should be able to stretch that right about, that's better. I can live with that. I can live with that. Yep. Really, if I wanted to, I could probably move it up just a little bit more. But, let's see. Have your split. Cap? What do you mean? Do you mean crap? I don't know if that was a typo. Alright, so, yeah, I think I could probably move it out just a little bit more. Yeah, just to make sure I get the end of that wall. So let me try it again. Will not save that. Load that back up. Perfect example as to why you want to save it as a separate PTF so you have something to fall back on. The wall is going to have... Probably. Yep. So like the very end cap, it's going to have like that wedge on the end of it. But that can be corrected with like a 3D model. I can make my own end cap. You can make a 3D end cap, you know, to straighten it out. That's what I consider, at least anyway. So you can that can be fixed. So yeah, as anyone necessarily knows, if you have, oh, let me do unlock all geometry. Yeah, so if you have, excuse me, a really sharp angle as far as your track splits, you would get that wedge appearance on the end of your wall instead of it being straight across. But like I said, I think the way that could be corrected is if you create your own 3D, in this case a 3DO end cap, that'll straighten that out. That's what could be considered. I'm trying to map a LiDAR mesh, the SAT image. Currently maxing out 32 gigabytes of memory being used. Like he said, oh, damn. So you're trying to put the LiDAR in the SAT image? Holy smokes. Alright, so yeah, let's go ahead and split this again. But I'm going to give it a little bit more room than I did last time. So basically, yeah, I'm going to follow this here, so that should be enough. Try it that way. No, probably not. As far as like, would you really need to do that though? As far as to, or are you just trying to size the LiDAR mesh, I guess, to the image? Yeah. And I think that's kind of what I was mentioning to you, you know, off stream. That's what I was trying to do, is take that 2D flat that I had and apply that to the actual image. In this case, like the background image that I got in here, you know. Well, and I can see how that'd be useful too, because you would try to want to size that that LiDAR mesh, I guess, to the actual track, you know. I mean, it should already match if it's, you know, if it's LiDAR data that's based on, you know, actual points, so it should match to the SAT image, like almost just as well. So if it is in fact, you know, I mean, that's real time. The LiDAR data is, you know, real data, so the image that's in there is based on real data as well. For real imagery. So, all right. So yeah, this should give us a little bit more room. Marcus Euclidean, yeah, that's better. Yep, and see, and I can fix, you know, if there's any more that I need there, I can just put a 3DO on the end of that wall. And that's what I say, don't get too carried away, I guess, with trying to, you know, so some I've seen before, you know, like, it's like, oh, I need another split there, you know, to get that, you know, and you got a little sliver of a segment. That's terrible. Don't do that. Yeah. Applies, you know, in that case, you can apply a 3D model, I guess, to accommodate that. But I think that should be pretty good there. So we got all of our F sections in here, as far as in the innermost part, at least, anyway. Okay. So I'll go ahead Save that once again. Moving up to G. Okay, so that's good. Now what I'll do is I'll start applying the innermost walls. So wherever I'll do W sections. And then I'll move to the outside and do the same thing I did as in the interior. And there you go. And then after that, I'll focus on getting the F sections as far as to get this all done on the, the inner course here. Yep. So I've got at least one side of that done. So now I have to do like the innermost side of that. But I'll do the W sections now around that. And then I'll do the F sections on the outer. And probably before I do that, on the next save, I'll move that X section out from the center line, I guess, like the 300 meters or so. That'll be the next step. So let's do the W sections on the inner part here first. So, yeah, we can move this up like so. You know what? Now that I think of it there too. Yeah, that should be fine. If anything, too, I could probably use a TSD to kind of square that off. Because it's probably going to be, like on an angle. Yeah. As far as the way that F section goes. So I could put a TSD there, I guess, to square that off. Or even a 3D model. Either way. Just to kind of make it look better. Yep, that'll work. Alright, so what I can do is do right click, insert a W section. And I'll probably have to mark that as Euclidean. Okay. And oh, how'd that happen? Okay, I thought maybe that guy was like, what the heck? Yeah, so yeah, we can take the wall definitely out as far as we need to go. But I'm trying to get this F section here as close to that as possible. So I'll probably have to put like a TSD or 3DO, I guess, to straighten that out. But that's okay. So I can move this out a little bit. Yeah, there's enough room there for that. This still bugs me, but it's okay. It'll all work out, so I'm just going to move this out to here. Trying to follow this line here that's on the back side, the pit wall. Let's go ahead and adjust all that. That way we can put our W section in for our wall. Yep, this is definitely this type of work like this, it definitely brings into perspective, at least it should, as far as what it is that takes so long, I guess, to build a track. So if there's any question as to that, this is why. There's a lot of things to consider as far as yeah, so I got plenty of room there. Look at that. What was I worried about? My personal preferences is no walls until banking and splitting is 99% done. True. I guess what I consider as far as starting with the W sections here is just to see how much room I had. And now that I can 100% see, that this is not going to be an issue as far as being able to put a W section in there. That's partially the only reason why I did it. But yeah, it's definitely as far as that goes, is a personal preference. For me, it makes sense to put W sections in there, and you don't even have to go so far as your fencing and stuff, but to put some W sections in there, so you at least have, where your boundaries at, as far as if you were to go apply your banking and stuff. So even once you do start applying banking, when you try to put it into the game itself, you have some type of boundary as far as, so you're not going flying off the. Yeah, that's what I consider, at least anyway. I mean, to each their own when it comes to that. I mean, there's no right or wrong as far as that goes. You can not have any walls on it at all. Put your banking in there, deal with all that, and then put your walls in afterwards. If that makes sense. Yeah, it can be done. And that may be the approach I take. With that being said, I could at least move this outer section out, put this outer F section in so I can put texture to it, and then just deal with the banking and such. And then once I get the banking considered, all in consideration, then I can start applying walls and fences and what have you. That might actually work better, especially considering the fact going to use that LiDAR mesh model, I guess, as a mold, I guess, to potentially create the banking, the elevation changes. So that might actually work out better to do it that way. Now that I think of it. But I at least, for this part, I wanted to see exactly how much we had room for walls, as far as the pit wall, and there's obviously plenty of room. So that shouldn't be an issue at all. So if anything, I wanted to humor myself in that. So I can mark this as Euclidean, straighten it out. And partially the reason why that wall ends up being curved like that is because that's considered a curved section. But the fact that you can mark it as Euclidean to straighten it out, that's how that works. Alright, so approaching the 3 hours into the stream here, so probably what I'll do, I'm going to finish up this W section. I want to start buttoning this thing up here a little bit. We made quite a bit of progress. I think so. As far as a lot of discussion, like I said, as far as what potentially, I'm still going to keep those PTFs as far as where we had the center line going, to see if that, we'll have the potential, I guess, to have those two to test. Now I might have to still adjust some things in those PTFs that have the center line going through the pit road, but at least I still have. If this doesn't work, say for example, we have that one, the center line going through the pit road to go with. I guess moving from that point. So, and I can rename those PTFs something, much higher, in number, for example, I guess to make sure that they're separate from everything else. But definitely, I won't throw them away yet until I know for sure that this is going to work like we expect. Alright, so we don't need a W section in here because that's an opening. But as you can see, that's what all I'm doing is just following that where the wall is actually on the background image. So there's an opening here, so no W section there. Yep, that fell right into place, nice. That'll be curved. We'll have to mark that one as Euclidean. And it's a funny word too, because I actually had to look that word up as far as Euclidean. I believe it's actually Greek or Latin for straight, or to straighten. It'd be a straight line. Yep, so we got a small section here. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll finish up at least this wall on pit road. And okay, that's an opening, so we don't want a W section. Turning out really good so far. I am pleased with the progress. It'll be really cool, I guess, once we get the ever do get that figured out for the LiDAR information. Alright, so I'll just finish this up here. Yep. Bring that this way. Yep, so I accommodated this no W section here because that's an opening. W section here. Now, keeping in mind, there's no textures on any of these yet, so it's still not going to show into the actual, if I go into the camera view, it's still not going to show. And that's normal. Until you get textures applied to it, you're not going to see squat. So, that's still going to be blank in that camera view yet. Alright, so now that I've satisfied, I guess, as far as there's plenty enough room to put a wall there for the pit road, I'm satisfied with that. I'm going to save this again. I know that's not a whole lot that I did during that session there, but so we're up to H. Okay. And I'm just going to confirm that that's in there. Cool. Not a whole lot in here. We don't have any 3DOs or anything like that. It's all it is PTFs in their track build. So now what I'll do is I'm going to take James's advice on that as far as, like, you know, the distance of this outermost X section. And this is probably where I'll end it. Once I get all those X sections out there, I want to keep it right around the 3 hours, I guess, on these things. So, yeah, what I'll do, Sandbox hasn't crashed much today. I'm about due for total corruption. Well, see, I've been totally getting in and out of it too. You know, that's yeah, I've been oh, that did come up in the timer there. There's the exclamation point how 1 and how 2. Those are the playlists, I guess, for the little shorts, the video tutorial shorts, as far as using Sandbox and setting up Sandbox and all that stuff. But yeah, I've been saving it and getting out, you know, quite a bit. You know, in this one I haven't kept it in, you know, open, I guess, for an extended period of time. So, but yeah, I think I will take your advice there, James, as far as applying, use the linear guide. I'm going to stretch this out to about 300 meters. Let's see what we got here. You know, give or take. You know, it's a little over, go in a little bit more. So that's a little over 300 meters right there. And basically, what I will consider doing is go to the center line, and that gives me a rough idea of how far I want to move that outer X section out. In fact, let's see where I'm at the center line. Let's move that. There we go. You don't have to be perfect, but I mean, you want to get it roughly out that far. Alright, let's make sure geometry is all unlocked. Just going to grab that outermost X section and just stretch that right out. And what this will do, like we mentioned earlier, this will help alleviate any drawing issues that you would have. Oh, I have to zoom in a little bit here. Any drawing issues as far as the clipping of the track, you know, as far as from, especially from faraway distances in particular. You're kind of creating, you're expanding out the bubble, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. Come on, why won't that select? Sometimes you deal with this, and that's the other crappy thing about this. Come on. There you go. Sometimes you got to click a few times or whatever to get it. Come on. There you go. Yeah, and seeing this is what James was referring to. Like, if you had several track segments, I guess, to deal with, you know, you'd be doing this quite a bit as far as to get these all adjusted out. But the fact that I've only got about 65 of these, it's not too bad. So you may necessarily want to consider moving these out prior to doing all the splitting like I've done. Yeah, because you get to working on bigger tracks, you know, as far as like super speedways and stuff like that. yeah, you're going to get well over, you're going to be reaching up to that 100 segments in it. So yeah. Oh my goodness, come on. Trying to keep it selected. Yeah, so I'll get these moved out. But you kind of get the gist of it as far as how this works. And right now all I'm doing is kind of just smoothing it out. You can go around and, fix it up more, but as general rule of thumb is, have it out significantly enough so that, yeah, so I got a lot of smaller segments in here. I can clean that up as I go and get these all out at least. Like that. There we go. Now let's get these nice and stretched out. And the other thing that'll happen, and I'll show that I guess once I get this done, when you stretch these X sections out, it's kind of sort of what Sandbox considers that's kind of like recentering. So it'll be zoomed out more when it loads, and I'll show that what I mean in a minute to get these all. But see, this is definitely something else to consider, as far as like not getting too carried away with putting so many X sections laid out off the get-go, because as you're zoomed out there, it's like I'd be clicking all over the place and then selecting the wrong X sections. And the fact that I know there's only one X section there that I need to move, that's all I need to deal with, and that's all I have. So I'll probably have to move this out a little bit more. I can check it. Come on. Oh, you dirty rat. There we go. Just trying to find the sweet spot on that thing. Alright, smooth this out. Ooh, I must have missed one right here. Yeah, see, I split this one earlier, so I missed this one. See, and this is... that's failure on my part, so I got a miscued interpolation there. Let me check it on this one here. I remember doing that when I was talking about that earlier. I thought I did it on this one, though. Let me see. Nope. So I missed that one. So yeah, I was talking about whether or not I should split that or not. And I kind of missed that mark there, so I'm going to take care of it right away. Straight away. Alright. Darn it anyway, come on. There we go. Yeah, the fact that it keeps deselecting it can be irritating a little bit sometimes, but gotta have patience with this stuff. Alright, so this is where I gotta be careful. I can't stretch that out too much because now we're getting into that area, so I'm going to have to leave a lot of this where it's at. I can't have those cross. So this should be okay though, because this is going to be on the front stretch. It'll be behind the grandstands, so that shouldn't be so much an issue. Where you really want to do that, primary reason you want to do this is to take care of any clipping or whatever that would be going down, like, into the corners, down the back stretch, so that you don't see all that clipping. So that's a little bit funky, but all right, let's check. Go to the center line here and see how far. All right, so that's about 300 meters there. So we can stretch it out just a little further. Yeah, we'll probably just taper it in a little bit since we can't move this out. Now, if this was a straight up oval, we wouldn't have to deal with all that there, but I'm just going to kind of feather this out. Just kind of make it look somewhat decent, at least anyway. You don't really have to. You don't see this in the game at all, but it's a matter of preference, I guess, at this point. Alright, so let's put it over here. Whoops. Alright, let's zoom in and see where I am at the center line. Not too bad, pretty close. Let's move it out a little more. And like I said, you don't have to be perfect. There's no magic number as far as how far you need to be out. You just want to be out significantly enough for it to make a difference. Alright, so alright, that's about 300 meters. And I'm just going to make it somewhat tidy so that it looks decent when it loads, you know, as far as in Sandbox at least anyway. Just pretty it up a little bit. I can get a little anal in this. I mean, it don't have to be perfect, but that's pretty good like that. As long as it's stretched out enough, I think that's pretty good. Okay, so with that being done, I'm going to go ahead and save that again. And we're up to I. Okay. Now, what I can consider at this point is putting in the outermost F sections. Where are we at in time? Okay, I'm a little over 3 hours. I think what I'll do... yeah, what the heck. I'll go ahead and do that. Oops. I'll at least go ahead and put this outermost F section, and then that's where I'll stop it. I think it'll be a good place to stop. Let's see if I can move this out. Yeah, I can still move this out a little bit. Now, as I do this, gosh darn it. Come on now. As I do this, yep, I can still move these out a little bit. Alright, just got to be careful with that area. Yeah, near here, so I don't want those to cross over. Okay, so this one I'll probably have to leave. Maybe I can move it out. Yeah, I guess this one I can. Yeah, this one should be good. Yep, that's not too bad. This here I'll probably have to keep, because otherwise that's going to start bleeding into that other X section there. Yep. So we'll leave that just like it is for now. Now, this is what I was mentioning before. I just made that subtle change, you know, to that X. I'm going to save over the same PTF. Okay, this is the exception. When you're doing like massive changes, I guess, to X sections or overall geometry with the track, definitely want to save it to new PTF. The fact that I just moved just these few X sections out just a little bit, and it's still related to my previous save, I'm going to save it to that same PTF. So this is the exception as far as I'll make. Whoops. Okay, file. Save as. I'm going to save right over that same PTF that I did. That should be fine. That's the only exception, I guess, to not saving it to new PTF. So it's like if I would have done a lot more to that, I would have definitely probably saved it as a new PTF as far as like made a drastic change to it. And that's the same goes for if you're making 3DO adjustments or TSDs or what have you. So if it's just subtle changes like that, you can get away with it. Just don't get into the habit of it. You know, if you can help it, always try to save a new PTF. I'm always going to preach that because it'll save you in the long run. And just to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and do a new. Close right out of it. I'm going to stand by my word. open the sandbox back up, and I'm going to reopen I, and that should be fine. Give it a second to load. And there we go. So that would be the the only minor, very minor exception to the rule as far as saving in PTF. You're just making subtle changes like that, and not necessarily a drastic change. You know, you can get away with saving over. You know, if you just like crap, I forgot to move that. You know, just go ahead and do that and save the same PTF. That's the only time you should. Only exception. For the most part, you definitely want to make sure you save to a new PTF. Alright, so I think at this juncture, I will go ahead and apply. I'll insert the outermost F sections. And this is where you'll see, because now we have this innermost and an outermost, so you'll get this white. That means there's no texture applied to it, and that's fine. I'm just going to move this out and leave a little bit of padding to the I might be able to move this. Oops, I gotta unlock all geometry again. Since I closed out the application. Let me see if I can move this just a tad. Yeah, I got enough room. Alright, let me zoom in on that. Just make sure I got plenty enough padding there. Yep, that should still be alright. And basically all I'm concerned with is making sure that this F section here, this outer one, can get under the grandstands without necessarily attaching itself to that X section just yet. I want to leave a little bit of padding for now. Just for now. Okay. Now. And like James is mentioning, as far as like applying all this types of stuff at this point is probably not 100%. You might want to put your banking and all that stuff on first. I like to have something visual to see how the banking's changing. So it may be a matter of preference, I guess, at that point, you know, as far as what you consider, you know, so now we should be able to see something in the camera view. That's probably another fair mention here. So like if I pan out here, I should be able to see white. So we're starting to see our track take form somewhat. This is the first indication that we've got something, and it's completely flat so far, at least for the time being. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and insert all these F sections, and this, once I get that done, I think that's where I'll end it off. This is a crucial part to get these, I feel, at least anyway, to get these initial F sections laid out. As far as to outline your X sections there. So we right click. Hindred. Thank you for the host. At the 6 figures. Welcome everybody over from Hindred stream. How was your stream there, bud? Glad to have you all. Thank you for stopping by. I'm actually just finishing up a little bit as far as some spline work on a track build for a racing simulation. So if you have any questions, I guess, about what's necessarily going on here, feel free to ask. Be happy to answer those. I'll get some 11 biddies there. Thank you for the biddies there, Hendred. Much appreciated. Are you gonna go lay down? Appreciate you coming by, man. You have a good one. Take her easy. Thank you for the host and the biddies. Really appreciate it. Hinder there, he's a cool cat. In fact, let me go ahead and put out If you haven't checked Hindered out, you should definitely go check him out. He does some really cool stuff. He does some creative stuff lately. In fact, let me give him a shout out here. I think this will work. I hope this works. I think I set it up right. I'm gonna make sure. Yes, he was. What was he recently playing? Does it say? Oh, it doesn't say. It doesn't tell me what you were playing. What were you playing anyway? What were you doing? I know you've been doing some pretty cool stuff. If you're still there. I don't know why that isn't working, but that should go. I can just go to his stream, I think. Go to his channel. Oh, it doesn't. I did it wrong. Okay, hold on. I feel so wrong. Okay, hold on. I gotta make it right. James spamming the emotes. Think of that. All right, let me. Why did that not work? I haven't tried this in a while. I'm gonna make sure this actually works. Oh, that's gonna bug me now as far as why that's not working. I shouldn't have to put the whole. Dang it, anyway. I feel so. Seriously? Alright. Now I'm typing in there. I guess I'm gonna have to check that out and make sure find out why that's not working right. Anyway, appreciate it so much, Hindred. I hope you have a nice evening. Really appreciate stopping by. Man, I'm really paying attention now. I think this is where all those openings were in the pit road. Yep. So you get these small segments. You really don't want to go much smaller than this. I'll be perfectly honest. This is small enough. Yeah, definitely anybody that hasn't followed Hindred, you should be. Does some really cool stuff. He likes to play a lot of Slay the Spire, and does some creative stuff. He's been doing some modeling, like die cast and stuff like that. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, that's gonna bug me now as far as like why my shout out isn't working there. I gotta probably take a look at that once I get done. Thought I had it set up right. Apparently do not. So that's a bummer. So yeah. So we're gonna have a huge blanket of white, I guess, once we get this all in here, since we won't have a texture applied to the region, for these two inner and outermost F sections, but at least yeah, kind of on crunch time here now. I want to get this thing laid out, get these all applied, at least anyway. Yep, there we go. You seem to be snapping together pretty good. So yeah, you can see we're going to have a huge blanket of white once we get all the way around this thing. And that's obviously prior to being able to get texture applied to it is all. No reason for concern. This is actually a good thing, because then we know so as we do this, if we come into an area where it doesn't show the white, then we know we missed an F section in the innermost part. At least that's my approach to it, at least. It'll give us a true indication. Some of this can be really tedious. Just getting that to snap on there. There we go. Come on. There we go. quite a bit to go yet. I want to at least get this all done, so at least that could be a good place to stop it. Tackle it again next time around. Alright, let me give myself a drink real quick. Oh, and I'm out of drink. Okay, all the more reason I need to probably end this thing pretty soon. I ran out of... Been sipping on some honey lemon tea lately with some crushed eucalyptus. Guess it kind of helped my congestion and my sore throat and that. Seems to help pretty well. Yeah, let's just straighten it out a little bit. Yep, so as long as we're getting white there, and then we know we haven't missed any F sections on the interior. The innermost ones there. Just leaving a little bit of padding. I don't want it to touch that X section just as of yet. Just getting those darn things to snap sometimes. Just finding that sweet spot. There we go. Yeah, I like these bigger sections like that because it goes much quicker when you don't have so many, I guess, split segments to deal with. So that's definitely something to consider as far as like the number of segments that you have. Sometimes you just can't help it though. I mean, bigger tracks that have, you know, a lot more turns, radius and stuff like that, there's no way around, I guess, getting having to split the segment up and having, you know, up and around 100 segments. This one's only got like 65, which really isn't too bad. You know, considering all the, you know, the inner course, you know, as far as the course in the infield and such. I mean, that's all right. Very tedious process, not gonna lie. I know I've said this plenty of times throughout the stream as we go. It's really not a quicker way to do it. I mean, it's the only way you can really get this type of work applied to such a build that's of the scratch nature. Okay. It's really hard to sometimes see that. Whoops, lost my mouse there for a minute. All right. So what these F sections are going to do, if I hadn't explained that enough, is it's going to allow for at least an initial texture in this sense to apply to the, you know, other than this white. So as far as to apply an asphalt or concrete or whatever it is we tend to go with, it's going to allow that initially, and then we can apply as many F sections that we need to accommodate. Yeah, it's right on the back stretch. That's good. As many as we need, I guess, to accommodate, you know, painted lines and such like that. This is what resides, I guess, in these types of sections like this, the green lines. So it's just a matter of having a lot of patience. Takes a little bit of patience and time to do these things. There's no workaround or shortcut as far as to do it quicker. You know, it's just hand-eye coordination type of thing. You know, as far as a lot of mouse clicks. Make sure all these are tied up. You don't want any loose ends, particularly in your X sections, but all your sections like this, as far as F, X, W, you want those all locked in together. So that's what we're doing at this point. So am I already into turn 2? Look at that, knocking it right out. So that's the advantage, I guess, of having not so many split segments. At least that's what I consider. You know, it's like, so not having it split up so bad. You know, there's plenty of disadvantages to having split tracks, as I've already mentioned throughout the stream. And this is one of them, as far as just, yep, just getting that to snap is all. There we go. Yeah, we're knocking it out now. We're getting her done. Okay. Come on, just trying to get these darn things locked. Sometimes it does help to it can be a little bit. Come on, yeah, get it to lock. There you go. Definitely want those locked in though. Don't leave anything loose. Alright, so we should be well into like the middle of 1 and 2. Turns 1 and 2, what will be considered for the outer oval, at least anyway. Ah, you goofy thing anyway, come on. This get irritating sometimes. Alright. There we go. And we just gotta finagle with it a little bit. Yep. Cool. Alright, so we're getting there. Da-da-da. And we're going to end up covering up quite a bit of the background image, but we've got a lot of that already pretty much laid out there. So you do have the ability to turn the track textures off, as far as even before they're applied. There's a function in here in the menu that allows you to do that. So find it necessary to have to make fine tweaks, I guess, to the track as far as splitting or what have you, which to this point we shouldn't need to do anymore. Shouldn't need to. We should have a majority of that all out of the way. Oh, come on. Gotta have patience. Oh my goodness. These things don't want to lock in together. Fingers are starting to get tired. That's another thing. Definitely need to give yourself enough rest time, as far as the in between. You can drive yourself insane, as far as, you know, spending hours upon hours working on one thing for so long. You know, getting aggravated, you know, the crashes and just doing all this tedious work like that. Come on. That's the most irritating thing. Is I'm trying to rush it now, and it's not a good thing. These things don't. Why don't you want to lock? Jeez, oh Pete, it's being a turd. There you go. See, rule of thumb, I guess, with a lot of this, and it goes the same like when you're in height views. You know, as far as to fine tune your banking and such. A lot of times, if you zoom in more, if you're finding that things aren't wanting to move or lock in like it is here, just zoom in. You know, to get it more precise. But the fact is, you will find yourself zooming in and out a lot. So you just have to get used to it. And like I said, those 3 main keys that you will use a lot of, the Z, X, and the C, as far as navigating yourself around in the sandbox utility. So can't say that enough. Alright, so let's get this one. Is this the last one? Should be the next to last one. Okay, at least for this part it is. Where's the end of that sucker? Okay, it's hidden in here somewhere. Oh, okay. I think I get it. Yeah, so there's the end of the segment here. Yep, there it is. So, yeah, I can keep it right about there, and I think that is going to do it for now. So we got most of that. We're going to have to work on next time. We'll work on getting the F section, you know, in this inner part. But that gives you a little bit of idea. So there's, we should be able to see quite a bit in the camera view now, as far as our layout of our track. So like, zoom out here a little bit. So you can see it's already starting to breathe as far as when you move in and out. See how it flexes like that? That's how it breathes as far as it renders. So yeah. And there's that clipping that you notice there, and you won't see that in the game. That's why we've taken care of that with that outermost F section there. So alright, so that's our camera view. So yeah, next time what we will be tackling for sure is applying a texture to this and finishing up the other half of the F section for this inner part of the course. You know, applying a texture and then going from there, as far as probably moving into applying our X sections to do the initial, you know, as far as for the apron, you know, outside the wall and stuff like that, so we can apply, hopefully with that LiDAR data. I know we've mentioned that LiDAR data quite a bit. We want to use that as a template, as a mold, I guess, to be able to apply that. And hopefully we'll have something figured out. Maybe not next week, but within the next 2 streams. Moving into episode 3, which will be next Saturday. So definitely feel free to check that out if you had found any of this interesting. Okay, I'm going to save this as a brand new PTF. So we're on J. Okay, so we're going to save that. So yeah, that's where we're at. So be sure, I guess, to check in next week, like I said. Appreciate everyone who did stop by. I'm gonna end this rather abruptly. But yes, thanks for the Hindred, I guess, for bringing in the host. All those that came over from Hindred stream. I need to fix my shout out. And James checking out your adrenaline there. Don't forget to use that flip if you want to get your last minute shots of adrenaline there. Just throwing that out there. Yeah, so Wednesdays, don't forget about Wednesdays for RecFest Wednesdays, if that necessarily interests you as far as supporting Wounded Warrior Project. Haven't necessarily gotten any donations, I guess, for that, but that's perfectly fine. It's not required or an obligation. It's just very much appreciated as far as trying to support a very good cause for that. And then, of course, on Fridays, divulge into the Farming Simulator 17. Still on the South Mountain Creamery map, the Creamery Farm. So if any of that interested you, make sure you hit the follow button. And hope to see you next time. For now, we'll see you. Have a great weekend.
Entangled cubits defy the But